The action takes place over tea. The father and daughter are talking about a very sensitive topic. The father told Magdalena that her mother wanted to divorce him. The man looked lost. His face was gone. He continued to say that her mother was crazy and asked his daughter to talk to her. "It is quite natural that she has gone mad," the girl answered, with a completely indifferent expression on her face. She talked about how he had a talent for driving people crazy. Magdalena confessed to him that she was the one who made him bankrupt. "You shouldn't treat me like that," the man replied, barely restraining himself from breaking the cup he was holding. He understands that her mother will end their relationship with divorce, but Magdalene is the daughter who inherited his blood. The girl replied that it was sad for her. If it were possible, she would have returned this dirty blood long ago. The father began to justify himself to her, saying that as the head of the family he was simply trying to save the family. It was obvious. The girl harshly answered him that when he slept with Agnelia, he did not consider himself the head of the family, but was simply having fun with her. That woman was her mother's friend. The girl doesn't think it's normal for her friends to share husbands. But he continued the discussion. He insisted that he did it for the sake of their family, and if her mother had not broken ties with the emperor, everything would have been different. But Magdalene was tired of listening to him. She objected that nothing would change, and it would be better for him to leave forever. He grabbed her roughly by the neck and pressed her against the wall. The girl began to choke. Looking her straight in the eyes, the man called her an ungrateful bitch and squeezed her hand even tighter. He is angry that she decided to marry the Duke because this house fed and raised her. The girl looked down, wondering what it must be like to be destroyed by the seed of misfortune that he himself had sown. At that moment, a tall, handsome man entered and confidently approached them. This mysterious man snapped his fingers, and this is what happened. The bastard literally flew away from the frightened poor thing. The man hit the marble floor hard, groaning in pain and feeling dizzy. It was difficult for him to get up, but he was able to find the strength within himself and do it. He felt even more anger inside himself, begging to come out. "Why are you on the floor, dear father-in-law?" asked the Duke with a grin on his face, as if mocking him. Kaiden snapped his fingers again, and the man fell to the floor again, hitting his head very hard. He no longer has the strength to endure this humiliation, but he cannot cope with a young and strong guy. The man has nothing to show Kaiden. It's as if all thoughts have been knocked out of him. He believes that it is not permissible for a nobleman to treat his own kind in this way. A black cat jumped onto Kaiden's shoulder. He introduced himself as the new head of the Collins family. His name is Count Muse Collins. The man was taken aback and said that this couldn't be. He considered himself possessed. Otherwise, how could he understand all this? "You left bruises on her soft skin," Kaiden said, kissing the girl on the neck. The old man paid for this because no one dares to touch this girl who has incredible beauty. Something terrible grabbed the man by the neck and began to strangle him. Kaiden is just learning to control his powers so he might accidentally kill this bastard. At that moment, a man entered them. Magdalene had called him. She said that it seemed like her father was not feeling well, so she needed to call Benjamin. Benjamin just came in next and approached the beaten old man. The man begged to be heard. He said that a cat had spoken to him, and then a body had flown up and fallen down. But they didn't want to listen to him. They decided that he was simply crazy, because he was talking some kind of nonsense. Magdalena squeezed tears from her eyes, pretending to be worried about her father's health. She asked to tie him up before he did something to himself and those around him. "My poor father," said the girl and burst into tears. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she said goodbye to him. So Magdalene sent her father to a madhouse. She showed no guilt or sadness and seemed like a beautiful devil. Her revenge began from the moment she died at the hands of her father. The man grabbed the girl by the hair and said that now her face is not so cute. His name is Aster, and he treats her very cruelly. He hates her, because if she had not been born a princess, her father would have recognized him as his heir. He ordered his own sister to be dragged into prison as well. She was crying and could not believe her son's cruelty. Her mother fell in love with her father and became pregnant, and soon married him in defiance of the emperor. She loved him with all her heart, and she firmly believed that her husband had the same feelings for her. But everything turned out very unpredictably and disastrously. Prince Aster killed his older brother because he wanted to become emperor. Lily asked to spare at least her daughter, but it was pointless. Asking such a cold-blooded person like him about it made no sense. Aster accused the girl of sneaking into the emperor's bedroom with some suspicious substance. He thought that she had decided to poison the emperor. But his death would only play into Aster's hands, so she has no reason to do it. The man got angry at Magdalene. He was surprised by her stubbornness and noticed that she was being too cheeky to him. She told him that the bottle contained an antidote. It could temporarily bring the one who had been poisoned to his senses, that's all. Then Aster asked the girl to prove it to him, that it was not actually poison. Right now she is a criminal arrested for attempting to assassinate the emperor. If her mother survives drinking this, then he will have no questions left and he will believe her. "It's absurd for a healthy person to drink the antidote," the girl screamed. Her mother stood up for her. She asked Aster not to touch her daughter, and not to let a single hair fall from her head. "It all depends on you," the man replied, and by the way, he reminded that his father had never appointed an heir. Even though he was the only remaining prince, the emperor seemed to be waiting for a worthy princess who would end the war with the demons through negotiations. "Don't leave a single drop, dear sister, if you want to save your daughter," Aster said sarcastically. Can anyone imagine that the medicine they created could kill a loved one? It was a carefully planned execution. On that day, many people gathered. They asked to kill these unfortunate girls and called them witches. Aster showed the crowd a document. He said that this agreement was the result of a conspiracy the former princess entered into with Duke Blake to subjugate the empire to the demon world. Magdalene, the daughter of Princess Lily, attempted to murder the emperor, Aster claimed. Thus, the treacherous former princess and her daughter will be burned at the stake. This is the peace treaty for which the mother risked her life. She went through the fierce battlefield despite the emperor's protests. The father stated that his dear daughter and wife were seduced by demons and as a result became witches. For failing to protect his family and allowing them to turn into traitorous demons, he decided to burn them with his own hands. The people demanded that this be done immediately. And he is a good actor, people will think that he really loved his family, but that is not true. What the man wanted was not love but power. If Lily had not given up her title of princess and her right to the throne, if she had not become pregnant with Magdalene, perhaps all of this could have been prevented. If only Magdalena could get rid of the dirty blood that flows in her veins, if she could tear these bastards apart and save her mother, everything would be different. These thoughts are spinning in her head. She is ready to sell her soul to the devil to prevent all this. The suffocating smoke and piercing pain took all this away. Magdalene Leonard made some ridiculous wishes. The girl woke up in an unknown place and heard an unfamiliar voice. It was the voice of a demon. "You called me, don't you remember? So what is your wish?" asked the demon. The girl, on her knees, began to cry and beg to turn back time. But the demon asked her again, what about revenge? Because someone wanted to tear those people to pieces. Now it is quite possible to do it. "It's too personal to entrust to someone else," Magdalena replied, and countered that she could do it herself. The demon girl laughed and said that Magdalene is even worse than she says and knows about herself. She handed the girl a book that described the story of her mother. It was called The Tragic Princess. Lily Leonard is a tragic princess who gave up everything to follow the man she loved. Her friend and husband, who meant the world to her, cheated on her behind her back. They decided to become pawns of Prince Aster, the second prince. To prove his loyalty, Lily's husband cornered his wife and daughter and forced them to walk onto the funeral pyre. The demon said that she could return the girl to the past exactly 3 years, since she was burning her mana, and it would be difficult for more time. And she doesn't need Magdalene's soul, she wants to offer a deal. The son of the demon lord has locked himself in a magical tower and needs to be rescued. This became the deal between the demon and Magdalena, a symbol of peace and a simple half-breed, Kaiden Black. Decades ago, in order to end the war between the Empire and the demon world, it was decided to enter into a political marriage. Soon, the hero of the Empire, Ethan Blake, and the demon princess, Hela Lucifer, had a child named Kaiden. He was the master of the Northern Magic Tower. Everyone pointed at the guy, said that he had nasty red eyes, that he was the son of a demon. Someone like him was not made for high society. There was no place for him anywhere. Even though he volunteered to exterminate demons at the border of the demon world, he was treated like a mad dog. He was the son of a demon who slew demons. But when Kaiden turned 18, the demon blood that lay dormant within him caused a terrible surge of mana. There was only one way to stabilize Kaiden's mana. He had to make a contract with a human and become a full-fledged demon. He resisted this and did not want to become part of this selfish race. If an ordinary human mage were to be subjected to such a surge of mana, it would last him a maximum of a year. But Kaiden lasted 8 years. refusing to become a demon until the very end, and died as a result of a powerful explosion. To avoid death, he must become a demon, and to do this, he needs a partner who will make a contract with him. Magdalena asked why she had to do it, since she didn't know anything about it. The demon replied that Magdalene's appearance made her want to kill her. This appearance shines, making her strong enough to face the demon. Kaiden has the dominant mana. He must crush all the weaklings and become the next demon king. All that is required of the girl is to make a contract with him and pull him out. Instinct will lead him to the throne of the king. The girl considers it rather pointless to free a half-demon who is on the verge of self-destruction. But since he has a nasty habit of killing any demon he sees, they won't be able to stop him. Magdalena agreed, but on one condition: she wants to borrow Kaiden so that he can help her in carrying out her plan. The demon agreed to this condition, but it would have to be returned within a year. "I will be extremely punctual," the girl answered her. When the demon snapped her fingers, a bright red ring appeared on Magdalena's hand, which she can use if the mad dog growls at her. This will be a lifeline for her. But the demon didn't explain at all how to use it. She threw the girl into an unknown place and left her in bewilderment. When Magdalena came to, she grabbed her head as she felt a sharp pressure on her brain, as if her head was clamped in a vice. She opened her eyes and looked forward. There was a guy standing in front of her. He was incredibly handsome. The man looked serious, as if he was dangerous to those around him. His appearance was breathtaking. No introduction was needed. The girl quickly guessed who it was. He was a monster, a murderer, and a mad dog. She called him that, and he replied that she seemed eager to be torn to pieces. Magdalena objected that she knew that he did not kill those from whom he did not sense mana. She smiled at him and said that she was very glad to meet Mr. Kaiden from the Black House. She also introduced herself as Magdalena Leonard. The man thought that there were no women in the imperial family, but she replied that she was using her mother's last name because her father was a rare bastard, and he bought it. "You are not a demon or a monster," the man stated, but he noticed that she was wearing a mana stone. So he asked what could have teleported her to the magic tower. "You abandoned your father's name. He must have betrayed you. It seems the House of Collins fell while I was focused on something else," Kaiden said. "Well, let's do it," the man added, hinting at intimacy and pulling his shirt off his shoulders. "It seems the Duke is more worried about the heir than about his crazy son," Kaiden said. "He means that apparently the Duke decided to settle a girl in this place. This is a clever move." Kaiden bared his torso and moved even closer to her, which made her blush. Magdalena thought he wanted her to get scared and run away. But she gathered her strength and answered him, "Well, if you so wish, we can do it." He clearly didn't expect such an answer, and so he was a little taken aback. But in exchange for sex, the girl demanded that he become her husband, and she would fulfill her marital duty in due time, whenever he wished. "I can give free rein to my base lust with others," the man replied. Then Magdalena insisted that she could give him what he wanted most. She said that she knew a lot about him, that he was obsessed with killing demons on the border. He asked her to shut up. But she kept insisting that she knew about the demon queen, Hela Lucifer. The truth is that Kaiden wanted to meet her, and no matter how much he waited like a good boy, the meeting never happened. He didn't expect any motherly love from her. He was prepared for the fact that she would scold him, and maybe even beat him, but he waited for her to appear before him. Magdalena said that she could arrange a meeting for them. She had an idea, since she had also encountered something similar. But for everything to work out, something needs to be done. She asked Kaiden to become her husband for only 1 year. He thought she was crazy, but the girl swore that she would help him meet his mother. The man felt bad. It looks like this is the work of Magdalene. He lost consciousness and collapsed to the floor. Slaying the demons on the northern border wasn't that bad. Thanks to Kaiden, people were able to calmly harvest their crops, and they will be able to continue their peaceful lives while the border is protected. No one looked at the man with disdain because he was the son of a demon, but the vile demon blood was still a problem. From Kaiden's back, wings as black as night emerged with a strange sound, and he was about to faint when terrible horns grew out of his head. And when the explosion engulfed him, everything around was engulfed in flames. Everything reached the blacksmith, his wife, and even their newborn child. Kaiden had been having this damn dream for 5 years now, and Magdalena had difficulty waking him up. She sat for a long time near his bed and waited for him to wake up. The cute cat snuggled up to her feet. She looked at the guy thoughtfully, as if trying to study him with her eyes. The girl recalled how he offered to make love to her. Magdalena can't imagine how she will look him in the eyes. She kept thinking about how he came closer to her, touched her face and whispered, "Let's do this." And she also remembered how she agreed, on the condition that he would become her husband. She doesn't understand where she got the courage from at that moment. Well, if she's not going to marry for love, then at least marry a handsome man, she thought. And Kaiden definitely has an attractive appearance. It's hard to take your eyes off him. The girl realized that his fever had subsided a little, so she decided to button up her shirt. Kaiden finally opened his eyes. He asked what you did to me. Why did I lose consciousness? She offered him to drink periwinkle, a plant known for its calming properties. Magdalena handed him a glass, but he looked at it suspiciously, as if it contained poison. The man decided to drink it anyway, since he wasn't feeling very well. The girl told him that he was now lying on the bed thanks to his cat, otherwise he would have remained on the cold stone floor. Kaiden introduced her to his cat. He said his name was Meows. Magdalena looked at the man, and he became indignant. But she reminded him that he himself had exposed his body, and she had simply involuntarily looked at him. The man asked if she could really help him meet the Demon Queen and how she would do it. She heard that the Demon Lord is the strongest in the demon world. It may seem that the title is inherited through blood ties, but the crown was passed on to her only because she turned out to be the strongest. And now Magdalene asked him to make a contract with her and become the strongest demon, and then even the king of demons. But Kaiden resists this. He does not want to become one of this selfish race. The girl believes that denying the truth and avoiding reality when you can explode at any moment is also quite selfish. Ordinary mages can withstand the flow of mana for a maximum of 1 year, but he lasted 5 years, which means that the flow of his mana is simply enormous. Even if there is protective magic, when Kaiden explodes, the north will turn into a wasteland. Naive people and his father will die. It will be inevitable. That's what Magdalena said. The man is amazed and cannot believe it. Everything is exactly like in his dream. He thought he would be the only one to die. Is the royal throne worth giving up a newborn child? For him, the Demon Queen gave up everything, so what will she feel when her own son takes him away? The girl said that if she were in his place, she would try to do something rather than just wait for death. Magdalena intrigued him. He asked how she intended to use it and why she was going so far. Then she told me that her father cheated on her mother with her best friend. She thought for a long time about how to make him pay for this act in the most humiliating way. The fact that some bastard's blood flows through her is sickening to her to death, which is why she wants to make her mother an empress. The biggest obstacle to this is the second prince, so she needs to enlist the support of the Blake family. Magdalena asked Kaiden to be the strongest support for her and her mother. When her father becomes drunk with sweet dreams of becoming the empress's husband, she will take it upon herself to push him into the underworld. Isn't it more terrible to be abandoned by the son of the empire rather than by a powerless wife? In other words, you're going to squeeze every last drop out of me, Kaiden asked. Magdalena promised that she would tell him everything when the time came. She heard that in order to become the Demon King, a bride was needed. They needed to start their marriage today, and the girl reminded them that in a year they could easily get divorced. Kaiden inhaled the scent of the strands of her hair, and his heartbeat quickened. He asked her if she would like to perform her marital duties right now. Barely restraining herself from kissing, Magdalena replied that first they had to formalize the contract. It's mind-boggling that it took him 5 years to get his first contract. At that moment, unexpectedly for both of them, Meows spoke. "I hope you make up for lost time with hard work," the cat said to his master. This left the man in shock. Something like this had never happened before. The cat introduced himself as Meowser and said that he was the most capable lesser demon in the demonic world. Lower demons usually act as business partners of higher demons. At the same time, they have the ability to choose a higher demon for themselves. Meowser chose Kaiden and stayed with him because he thought he would become a powerful demon, but it took 5 years. The cat can't believe that he was able to reveal his identity only after the appearance of his contract partner. Meowser suddenly lunged at his owner and bit him on the hand. The girl didn't understand what was going on, but decided that this seemed to be a common occurrence for them. She pulled Meowser away from the man and said that she was very glad to meet him, since she was worried that her contract partner was inexperienced. The higher demons cannot exist without the lower ones. This axiom is imbued with the dark philosophy of the underworld. Until this time, Kaiden thought that he was the one playing with his cat in the morning and evening, but it turns out that it is the other way around. It turns out that the man didn't know his cat meows at all. Well, it's time to finalize the contract, Muser said. He called them to enter the magic circle to perform the ritual. The cat walked with an important gait, like the most experienced specialist in this matter. He attacked Magdalena and scratched her arm until it bled. And he said that an offering was being made, and she should distribute her blood evenly around the circle. At this time, Meowser began to pronounce some kind of spell, completely incomprehensible to the girl. As she expected, something strange started to happen around her. Kaiden pulled her close to him as hard as he could and looked deep into her eyes. Meowser said that the contract was now sealed. After some time, Magdalena woke up in bed, not remembering or understanding anything at all. The girl didn't understand where she was, but she smelled a familiar smell. She focused her gaze and saw her mother sitting next to her. Then Magdalena realized that everything had worked as planned. Her happiness knew no bounds, and at the same time she was shocked, because what she had dreamed of so much had happened. Magdalena threw herself into the arms of her dear mother and hugged her tightly. The woman did not understand what was happening to her daughter, why she had such a reaction. Maybe she had a bad dream. Mom began to calm her down, saying that dreams are the opposite of reality, which means that something good awaits her ahead. She said that her father insisted on throwing out the cat, which was constantly hanging around her. Magdalena was taken aback. Could Meowser really be here too? She saw him sitting next to her. He looked at her with sly eyes and smiled faintly. The woman said there was a commotion in the estate, but she pretended not to notice anything and brought the cat into the room. A mother is always on her child's side, no matter what anyone says. The girl felt sad, not the kind of melancholy that comes from unfinished business or broken hopes, but an all-consuming sadness, like a gray fog. After all, for her sake, her mother gave up everything. She was the only one who tried to protect her daughter, dying in excruciating agony. Magdalena swore to herself that this time she would definitely protect her dear mother, no matter what it took, even if it cost her everything. The next day, the mother left a note for the girl saying that she had gone to pray and left her favorite breakfast on the table for her. As a child, she always cooked beef stew for her daughter. It tasted simply heavenly. The food she prepared was so delicious that Magdalena did not forget its taste, even while studying at the academy. A maid entered the room and brought her this breakfast, because it is better to start the day on a full stomach. The girl asked Tilda not to put food on the table, but to bring her breakfast right to bed. The maid, of course, fulfilled her request, but Magdalena noticed that what was on the plate was not at all what her mother had prepared. A vague feeling of anxiety arose somewhere in the depths of my lady's soul, like a small seed ready to sprout into something frightening. The maid said that the Marchioness of Richmond had prepared vegetable stew today, since fatty foods were bad for the figure. The woman turned around and was about to leave, but Magdalene stopped her. The girl covered her nose with her hand and said that she would not eat anything that smelled so bad. She is not sure if it was prepared today because this dish smells disgusting. Tilda claims that she does not understand what smell my lady is talking about. She stood indignantly with a red face and watched Magdalene. The maid admitted that she added a lot of spices to cover up the smell. At that moment, the door to the room quietly opened and Katrina Richmond entered. The girl stated that Magdalene did not want to eat this food only because her physical condition was to blame, but Milady herself did not think so. Katrina Richmond is a childhood friend of Magdalene's mother and her father's lover. She was the one who brought her father together with the second prince, the queen bee of society, the girl thought. Katrina asked how my lady was feeling, as if she was worried about her health. It was obvious to the naked eye that the girls hated each other, even though they tried to smile at each other. But Magdalena already knows the whole truth about her, so one can understand her hatred for the homewrecker of their family. Milady reported that her mother had gone to the temple, and Katrina replied that they must have missed each other since she had just returned from morning prayer. "Did you really go to church wearing this?" Magdalena asked. "Does clothing matter?" "The main thing is sincerity," the woman answered her. Milady believes that she does not need to go to confession because her bitchy nature is visible through and through. Katrina suggested that Magdalena was refusing to eat not because of the smell, but perhaps because of her pregnancy. The maid said that her daughter also feels sick in the morning, so she is very worried. Catherine told the girl that her mother had become pregnant before the wedding, and it would not be a good idea to follow in her footsteps in this matter. Without thinking twice, Magdalena replied that she was living much better than the Marquis, who was raising a cuckoo chick that was not his. When the Marquis married Catherine, his third wife, he was already 50 years old. The woman miraculously gave birth to a boy and took power in the Richmond family. But the curious could not turn a blind eye to this, and soon many rumors began to spread, because the Marquis was sterile and everyone knew about it. His first two wives failed to give him an heir, but his young wife, who was 30 years younger than him, did. Magdalene said that she felt very sorry for the Marquis, who was bedridden due to illness and did not suspect anything. But Katrina seemed not to hear her. She asked my lady to quickly eat the food before it got cold. But this plate immediately flew to the floor because Magdalena threw it with all her fury. The woman was outraged. She did not expect such rude behavior. Milady said that it was an accident, and the dish simply slipped out of her hands. She is irritated that Catherine's clothes, her perfume, everything is like her mother's, she asked. Are you copying my mother on purpose? Their conversation was interrupted by a man entering the room. It was Magdalene's father. He always tried to look neat and formal. Even on the day he burned her, he did not change his obsessive ideas, but now he appeared in a different form. Katrina immediately burst into tears. She said that she was very upset that his daughter deliberately poured out the stew that she had prepared for her. Milady wondered if she could have saved her mother if she had paid even a little attention to what was happening, instead of locking herself in her room and reading books. She replied that the plate was too hot, so she dropped it. Catherine was surprised when she saw that the girl actually had a burn on her hand. The maid insisted. She clearly saw how the young lady deliberately poured out the stew. Tilda claims that Catherine tried very hard because she doesn't cook that often. The father sharply replied to the maid that she was on the Collins family estate and should be responsible for running the household. He also added that it was her responsibility to ensure that such things did not happen in his house. He took a spoon in his hand and hit the maid. The woman fell to her knees and began to beg for forgiveness. She was very scared and began to cry. A young and fresh beauty is a valuable asset, Magdalena thought, watching all this. She realized that she was a valuable commodity to her father, and it was not for nothing that she spilled this liquid on her hand. It's nothing compared to the pain of being burned at the stake. Catherine was very upset that the man did not believe her and yelled at the maid who saw everything. She turned around and left. The father asked his daughter to rest. He promised to call a doctor to her and left the room. Only Magdalene and the maid remained in the room. The girl said, "Let me show you something, Tilda," and she became wary. Magdalena took off her clothes and showed her excellent body. She asked, "Now do you understand why father is so afraid that even one scratch will remain on this body?" To be honest, the girl doesn't care about her body, but her father seems to think otherwise. But she believes that the only thing worse than a mark on the body could be dirty rumors about a secret pregnancy. Just think, mother and daughter are burned at the stake together. It seems even a noble princess cannot resist the demon's seduction. Tilda made a face and said that the princess and Duke Blake had exactly that kind of relationship. Magdalena seemed to go wild. She grabbed the maid by the throat. She replied that it would be very bad if her father found out about this. Then everyone would be in trouble. He would certainly have nailed the maid's head to the gate if it meant he could clear his name. The girl pushed Tilda, and she fell to the floor. The woman began to ask the lady for forgiveness. "Watch your dirty tongue from now on," said the angry Magdalene, because she is confident in her ability to portray herself as an innocent victim. She ordered that they clear out of her room and prepare a bath for her with warm rose water. Tilda lowered her head guiltily and promised to do everything in the best possible way. And from now on, she asked to knock on the door before entering, otherwise you might end up without hands. Human instincts are no different from those of animals, so people often unconsciously build a hierarchy. So Magdalene decided to use her power to the fullest and enjoy it. The maids and other servants of this mansion began to treat her more respectfully. Everyone wanted to court her and complimented her. They seemed to flatter her, saying that she was very beautiful and that her skin was like velvet silk. After Magdalena took a bath, she went to her father. He was sitting at the table in his office, sorting through some papers. He asked how he burned her, but she replied that she had not come to him because of the burn. In the past, she wanted to become a doctor, which is why she disobeyed her father's orders and entered the academy. Luckily, she already knows everything she needs to know, and since time has turned back, she doesn't have to retrace her steps again. She told her father that she didn't want to go to the academy. Instead, she asked him to prepare her debut. Magdalena claims that after receiving the injury, she understood a lot, understood how childish and immature she was, and how much he values her. The girl said that now she wants to be useful to the Collins family. The man felt relieved. He was glad that his daughter had finally realized her role. He promised to find her a suitable match. But she asked permission to find a pair herself. The father did not expect this from his daughter. His expression changed dramatically. Magdalene said that Viscount Lightman and Baron Froys serve the same master, but their relationship is worse than that of strangers. This is because Baroness Frois was Viscount Lightman's first love. After Baroness Frois chose her current husband, Viscount Lightman lived as a man who had lost all hope and was forced to marry. Unfortunately, Viscountess Lightman found out about this, Magdalene said. She smiled and stated that she was passionate about reading. In fact, she had read about it in an article before she returned to the past. She read everything from the imperial and tabloid press to gossip magazines every single day. Magdalene also claimed that she knew how the royal family and influential nobles were connected, and to some extent their personal grievances. She said that if she needed to get married, she could choose the man who would have everything. The one she chooses will have everything from wealth to appearance and even status. The lady also stated that since she grew up looking at her father, a simple man would not suit her. But if she doesn't succeed, she promised that without further ado, she would marry the one her father chooses for her. The man thought about it. He believed that he had nothing to lose from this deal, so he gave his consent. But since his daughter might be drawn into some indecent gossip, he decided to assign her a companion. "If we are talking about the Marchioness of Richmond, then I refuse," said Magdalene. "She has been moving in high circles for a long time, but has not achieved anything lately. It's better to have a few aces up your sleeve. Katrina is trying her best. The second prince hasn't shown much interest in her yet. The man thinks it's because he's the princess's legal husband." Magdalena asked permission to go with her mother. The girl knows very well how to attract her father's attention, and of course, he agreed with her. Her mother was very upset when she found out that her daughter would not go to the academy. She decided that it was all because of her father. But Magdalene explained that this was not the reason at all. The girl thought that she needed to come up with a plausible reason so as not to upset her mother. She said she fell in love at first sight. Magdalena said that it looks like he is a nobleman. She is ashamed to admit it, but she was charmed by his face, and she does not even know his name. She asked her mother to help her with her debut to find that guy. Now is the time for social events, and if that is what her daughter wants, the woman agreed to help her. The maid knocked on the door and said that someone was looking for Magdalene. It turned out that Mr. Kaiden Black had unexpectedly come to visit them. He sat thoughtfully and thought that it seemed that Magdalene did not yet know how impatient he was. The man entered the room where they were already waiting for him. He greeted the Royal Highness. "You might get yourself into trouble," the woman said, and asked to be called simply Countess Collins. Magdalene wondered if he remembered her saying she hated the name Collins, and he seemed to remember, despite the state he was in. The last time the Countess saw him was when he was only 6, and now he has grown into a fine man. She asked how he was doing and how his health was. Kaiden replied that everything was fine, and his mana flow had miraculously stabilized. The Countess is very surprised that the Duke needs her daughter, and she is very curious why. The man said he wanted to see her because of the cat. The Countess was upset. Could it be that her daughter had brought a strange cat into the house? Her mood improved. But Kaiden said that this cat ran away from him. He even left the carriage to go after him, but he was nowhere to be found. Cats are good at hiding and are always on the move. The man looked at the lady as if looking into the depths of her soul. His gaze showed something more than just interest in her. He stood up and walked over to the cat. Kaiden said that his cat was very shy and he might run away again if there were too many people here. "Then I better leave," said the woman. She quietly asked her daughter not to be rude and to communicate politely. Everyone left, and Kaiden and Magdalena were left alone, except for the cat. The girl felt his gaze penetrate her. She felt embarrassed. Kaiden pressed himself too close to her and said, "Long time no see, darling." The girl said that she heard that he arrived without a carriage, to which he replied that he did not need a bulky carriage because it was much faster to fly. The man snapped his fingers and a rose appeared in his hands, and he presented it to the lady. Magdalena blushed. He was embarrassing her with his courtship. She walked away from him and said that she needed to set the stage first. But Kaiden objected that he came for something. He couldn't sleep all night, how much he wanted it. It seems that Magdalena guesses what he means, but she is not ready for it yet. She responded sharply that she had no intention of fulfilling her marital duty right now, especially since the maids were outside the door. He is not only abnormal, but also an exhibitionist, the lady thought. She didn't know what to think, so she said that now was not the right time, and especially that she needed to go to the bathroom. She means that now she will go bathe Meows. Kaiden must not have bathed Meows in the magic tower, because when Magdalena bathed him for the first time, his fur was dirty. But the man, as if he had not heard her, said that she smelled sweet, and that it was impossible to tear yourself away from this aroma. She felt his gaze on her skin, on every cell of her body, and she began to shiver. Kaiden asked what kind of person she thought he was because he felt like she was afraid of him. It was as if he heard her thoughts, not literally, of course, but in the depths of his soul an inexplicable feeling was stirring. His expression was strange, exciting, and a little frightening. He said he heard she had already made someone cry. He thought she was definitely fit to be the demon's bride. The girl replied that now was not the time for empty talk, they needed to discuss plans for the future. She explained that she had told her father that she was making her debut in high society. She wants him to be there too, so they will have to meet as often as possible to let the scandal unfold naturally. Kaiden replied that since that was what his wife wanted, he would obey her. Magdalena had the courage to say that she was not his wife yet, and that she first needed to wait for proposals from other men. She reminded him that this was just a performance in which he was the main actor and had to play along with her. She wonders why he has become so obedient. She can't understand whether she likes it or not, but it's at least strange. Can demons be obedient? Their nature is rebellion, and their goal is overthrow. Kaiden even started to smile more often and became somehow gentle towards Magdalena. The man told her that since he was so obedient she could pet him, because obedience should be rewarded. He asked to pet him. The girl thought he looked like the dog Lilu, whom she raised as a child, and yet she stroked his head and called him a good boy. He grabbed her hand abruptly and pulled her down on top of him, stars shining in his eyes. The lady felt her heart pounding wildly. She tried to break free, but his grip was like steel. It's as if he's about to start licking her like a dog. Magdalena found herself thinking that it was becoming increasingly difficult for her to control herself when he looked at her with puppy eyes and grinned from ear to ear. She doesn't know how to react to his behavior, all because he keeps doing unexpected things. But the girl did not hide it. She admitted that she liked his appearance, and his beauty was pleasing to the eye. It's like admiring a piece of art. She hopes he won't take it for some kind of saccharine feeling. Kaiden wondered if she didn't realize that I already knew everything. At first, her mind was occupied only by revenge and resentment, because of which she made a contract with the demon, so of course he knew. The man was just teasing her because he found her reaction funny. Magdalena asked him for permission to let Mayao stay with her for some time. She believes that he will be a great reason for their next meetings. He happily agreed to this and left her cat. Early in the morning, young Mr. Jeffrey Richmond appeared at the Collins estate. Magdalena is not at all happy to see him, and she is even more irritated by the fact that he entered without knocking. He is the only son of the Marquis of Richmond, and he and Magdalene grew up together. She said that he should be more careful with his hands, since he still hadn't learned to knock. Jeffrey was outraged. He believed that the Earl's daughter should not say such vulgar things, otherwise no one would want to marry such a frightening woman. A few days after Kaiden's visit, the maids could only whisper about him. They told Magdalene that he looked at her in a special way, as if he couldn't take his eyes off her. And contrary to rumors, he turned out to be very handsome. They think that he will return often, using the cat as an excuse. Jeffrey said he was so upset that he had to visit her, but the girl didn't understand what he meant. Then he explained that he was talking about her stupid plan to find a husband. The man asked since when she became interested in these preenings. She asked him to leave because he was not on her list of candidates, thus angering him. Jeffrey replied that he had not come to her for that at all. He had brought something for her. The man handed her the box and said that good shoes lead to a good place. Since she decided to leave, he decided that she better be in a good place, so he gave her the shoes. The girl opened the box and found gorgeous shoes that one could only dream of. She was surprised because she didn't expect a gift from him. They hadn't liked each other since childhood, and then he showed such generosity. He took the box from her. The girl decided that he was taking the gift back, but he just decided to court her. Since she received a gift, she should at least try it on for the sake of decency. He bent down in front of the lady and put the slipper on her. "If they're uncomfortable for you, I can bring you another size," Jeffrey said. Magdalena said, "They are lovely. She has never seen shoes like them." The girl smiled broadly as if she was glowing with happiness. Jeffrey fell silent, and there was a clear sign of surprise in his eyes, or rather, he was even in shock. It's not for nothing that they say that the eyes are the mirror of the soul. He decided, judging by the fact that she suddenly became so kind and good, she loved money. Suddenly, Magdalene inadvertently noticed a fresh wound on Jeffrey's hand, and she became worried. He explained that he had simply cut himself during training and that it was nothing serious. But she didn't listen to the man and reached into the first aid kit to help him. She made fun of him, saying that she couldn't believe that the commander had injured his hand. She was afraid for the West. He decided to tell her something. He is interested in the question of why she decided to give up her dream. After all, she wanted to enter the academy and become a doctor. Jeffrey remembered how, as a child, she had only played doctor with him, and now her plans for life had changed dramatically. Magdalena thought about it. He hadn't appeared at all lately, so she was wondering why he suddenly came. The girl explained that she was tired of all this, and that's why she decided to make her debut in high society. The man said that he had heard that there were a lot of different scumbags in high society who acted as if they could get the moon for her. Then they turn around and gossip about how they only spent one night with her. So he offered to accompany her to the debut ball. But the girl immediately refused. She replied that she had already decided to go there with her father. Jeffrey clarified that as the commander of the Knights, he only wanted to go with her as a guard so that some strange people wouldn't target her. The lady relaxed. Magdalena said that she herself could deal with ill-wishers. She would castrate them so that they could no longer have children. But the man insists. He has a premonition of something bad. The girl agreed, but on one condition: if he immediately called her his mistress. It was difficult for Jeffrey, but he pulled himself together and fulfilled her request. The lady smiled. She thought it was funny. A few days later, there is a commotion in the Collins living room. Tailors from the 5 best boutiques of the empire arrived. They always come running at Katrina's first call. Having received a refusal to become Magdalena's companion, Katrina brought in tailors famous in the empire. Countess Collins thanked the woman for her concern, which would help them prepare for Isabella's debut. She failed to become a companion, and now she is trying to prove her power with dresses. Katrina noticed new shoes on the lady's feet and was extremely curious where she bought this beauty. Magdalene said that Mr. Jeffrey gave them to her. "He always uses training as an excuse not to go to balls," Catherine said, smiling, adding that he doesn't have that kind of self-confidence. The woman suggested trying on outfits and advised starting with the LeBlanc boutique. As soon as Magdalena tried on her first dress, she knocked everyone down. There are still many more beautiful dresses like this one ahead. No one will remain indifferent. She looks like a diamond. Although trying on dresses and preparing for the ball quickly tired her out, she already looks tired. Magdalene looks exactly like her mother, Countess Collins, in her youth. "There are 4 more boutiques in line," Catherine cried. These 5 boutiques were as amazing as their reputation. From a voluminous ball gown fit for a princess to an empire-style dress fit for a mythical goddess. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but Magdalene felt like she had tried on every dress in the empire. Katrina asked the girl what she liked most, but Magdalena has no definite answer. Everything she tried on was amazing and wonderful. But knowing the risk, she would not allow Katrina to take power, so the lady replied that she did not like any of them. The girl explained that they were all beautiful, but they lacked the special touch that would captivate the hearts of those watching. After all, the Collins family has exceptional taste, Magdalene added. The debut is an extremely important event for a noble family, so in most families it is customary to obey the head of the family. Countess Collins apologized to Catherine because it took her a lot of work to organize all this for Magdalene, but she did not choose anything. Unfortunately, no one wanted to agree with Katrina, although the woman smiled. Deep down in her soul, there was a grudge. The Countess apologized. She said that she urgently needed to leave for a short while. She said goodbye to Catherine and left the room. Left alone with the lady, the woman immediately began to be rude to her. She said that it would be pointless to look for another boutique because she would ruin the reputation of any boutique that made her dress. Tilda crept up behind her unnoticed and stated that the lady should apologize to Catherine. The maid claims that Magdalena has no understanding of fashion because she spends all day reading books. It seems that Tilda didn't learn her lesson at all, so she immediately paid for it. Magdalena hit the impudent girl again. Catherine jumped up from her seat. She made a sour face. She called the lady's behavior vulgar. But the lady, on the contrary, believes that she cannot compare in vulgarity with those who walk around someone else's house naked. The lady skillfully silenced Catherine, but she did not like the rudeness. The woman became furious, filled with rage, and swung at Magdalene to slap her. At that moment, Countess Collins entered their room. Catherine did not expect Lily to return so quickly. The Countess asked for an immediate explanation of what was happening. It was unlikely that Catherine would be able to find an excuse for herself. But the woman tried to justify herself, saying that Magdalene had been very rude to her, and she simply could not restrain herself. Magdalena did not argue. She said that this was exactly how it happened, but it was not intentional. Lily did not get angry at her daughter for this behavior because she believes in her daughter and is always on her side. In a completely calm voice, the Countess apologized for the fact that Magdalena had allowed herself to be rude to her. But as a mother, she alone should scold her daughter and not someone else. So Lily asked Catherine if she was crossing the line by raising her hand to her daughter and behaving in this way. The Countess stated that she had heard rumors that Catherine had been here a few days ago. The woman clarified that it was on the day Magdalene burned her hand with the stew. Lily said that she was not at all happy with her coming to their house and waiting while the hostess was not home. Lily asked from now on to come only when she was invited. Katrina's mother, Viscountess Baker, was the princess's nanny and cared for Lily devotedly. So Catherine was pushed into the background. All she could do was remain the princess's friend, but deep down she felt strong jealousy and resentment. The woman got angry. She turned around and left like a whirlwind, loudly slamming the door behind her. Now the Countess turned to Tilda. She said that she heard that she had a grandson. Then she should take the opportunity to be with her grandson and rest a little. The woman explained that from tomorrow the maid did not need to come to work. Lily said that she was so stupid because following the person you like is a dog's instinct, but she didn't understand that before. "I'm letting go of your leash. Run to your mistress," the woman added. The maid, kneeling, said that she had made a serious mistake and began to beg the Countess to have mercy. In the past, she only smiled, but now there is not a hint of a smile on her face. At that moment, another maid came in and announced that the rose petal bath was ready. She saw the head maid kneeling and humiliated. The girl smiled slyly. She was clearly up to something. A vessel with water immediately flew at Tilda. The maid was confused. She said that the decanter was so heavy that it accidentally slipped out of her hands. The maid became so furious, as if the beast had been building up inside her for years. It seemed that her cup of patience had overflowed. In fact, the maid Alice did this on purpose. Because she had been tormenting Lady Magdalene for years, she decided to take revenge on her. The girl apologized for her mistake to the Countess and the lady. Lily handed Tilda a towel to dry herself off and asked her to be ready to hand over her duties to Alice by the end of the day. Since the bath for Magdalene was ready, the Countess asked that a bath be prepared for herself as well. The girl was a little confused. She was not ready for such a sharp turn of events. Now Alice has become the senior maid in this luxurious mansion. She can manage and control the work of the rest of the servants. While taking a bath, Lily told her daughter that she had a feeling that Catherine would return to their house. Magdalena noticed that when her mother smiled weakly, her expression became sad. It was clearly visible that she was bored. After all, their friendship with Katrina lasted even after she lost her title of princess. They must have been very close friends, almost like sisters. Previously, the girl was disappointed in her mother and considered her stupid. This was because she simply smiled and did not pay attention to Catherine's antics, just because they were friends. Magdalena thought that perhaps her mother already knew about her father's affair with Catherine. The lady apologized for being too picky about dresses. She admitted that, in truth, she had one dress in mind. A few days later, Magdalene's maid, Jenna, was called to her room. Magdalena asked her to sit down with them at the table. She wants to ask her for one favor. Since Jenna is Olivia's daughter and her only successor, only she can do this. The maid was frightened and asked in a trembling voice how they knew about her mother. It turned out that it was the Countess who told her daughter about the unjust death of Jenna's mother. Lily told how one day she met Olivia, Jenna's mother. It happened when she was returning after the end of the war with the demons. She fell into a muddy puddle, and it just so happened that Olivia helped her. The girl did not regret it, and gave the dress that she had sewn herself so that Lily could change into clean underwear. It was after this that the Countess asked that a debut dress be made for her. Olivia arrived in the capital with her exceptional sewing skills, and the dress she created for the princess, who was the beautiful flower of the empire, conquered high society. Soon Olivia was enjoying wealth and fame that other commoners could only dream of. But this happiness did not last long. When the emperor renounced Lily, Olivia fell with her. Her reputation turned into a terrible story. Her boutique was constantly being slandered, as if someone was deliberately spreading gossip. Unable to recover from the shock, Olivia unfortunately passed away. So Lily took in the orphaned Jenna. The girl sewed dresses for Magdalene's toys while she sat in her room and read books. The lady really liked the dresses that Jenna made, so she decided to contact her. So Madalena asked again if she could trust her to sew her debut dress. When they look at you with such eyes, it's hard to refuse. They reflect a quiet plea for help. They opened the closet where all the dresses that the lady had worn when she was still a princess were kept. Magdalena said that she wouldn't mind if she changed one of them, because it was easier and faster than sewing a new one. But Jenna replied that her mother had once made these dresses, so she didn't want to change them. The girl would like to create a new dress for the lady, just like her mother did. Magdalena noticed that there was a dress hanging in the closet, the same one that Jenna had sewn for the teddy bear earlier. She repeated it exactly. The Countess remembered that she first wore it to celebrate the new year. It was on that day that she fell in love at first sight with Damien. She thought it was fate, and thanks to this she had such a wonderful daughter as Magdalene. The woman was overcome with memories and nostalgia, which made her smile. The lady had the same sincere smile on her face. Jenna said that sewing the dress shouldn't take long, especially since she has a pattern. If you try, the work will take 10 days. But if you work day and night, you can do it much faster. But Jenna asked permission to call her friends for help, then things would definitely go uphill. They can come right now, the maid said, because after what happened, no one else would hire them, and now they work as laborers. Hearing this, Magdalena realized that Katrina had already destroyed the boutique's reputation in the past. The lady promised to pay generously for the work, and all that's left for Jenna to do is focus on the dress. The maid will do everything in the best possible way, because she doesn't know how to do it any other way, since she has her mother's genes. Lily came to her husband's office to talk to him as always. He was busy with his own affairs and writing something with a frown. She invited him to drink tea together today. It was incredibly aromatic. But the man is interested in something else. He is outraged that his daughter refused all the boutiques offered to her. He believes that as a mother, she should bring her impudent child to his senses. In response, Lily stated that as a husband, he must also fulfill his duty to his wife. He promised her to drink tea together at least once a week, but he has not kept his promise for the 3rd week now. Lily also asked her husband when he and Katrina became so close that they started calling each other by their first names. The man visibly tensed up and immediately sat down next to his wife at the table. He replied that he had called her by name by accident, since she was often talked about in the mansion. Damien immediately began to praise the tea, saying that its aroma was truly delightful. But he still asked Lily to talk to her daughter and convince her to choose the dress suggested by Catherine. The woman said that there was no point in this. Magdalene would still get her way, no matter how much they resisted. Lily explained that their daughter would decide everything for herself and accept the consequences if she wanted something. You just have to believe in her. She is smarter than anyone else. At that moment, there was a knock at the door, and the headmaid Alice announced that Magdalene wanted to see him. The lady came in to them. She said that she was trying on dresses, so she decided to show him. The girl is incredibly similar to her young mother. Her father is delighted with her appearance. A few days later, Meow the cat asked Magdalena if she had forgotten that she had agreed to divorce Kaiden after a year. She replied that of course she remembered that. The bait was cast and she was just waiting for something to bite. It may seem like the girl is doing nothing, but in fact she is in the midst of work. Benjamin knocked on the door. The lady allowed him to enter. He is a loyal servant of the Collins family to the core. He noticed that the girl only had fruit for food. He was smart and diligent, which is what you would expect from someone who works for her father. The girl explained that she needed to watch her weight, because she would soon have to wear a new dress. Benjamin informed her that her father wanted to have breakfast with her today and was already waiting for her in the greenhouse. He didn't even bother to ask if she wanted it, it was just like him. She gave orders to call Alice to her because she wouldn't go to dinner in her nightgown. Benjamin fulfilled the request and immediately went to the owner. He said that the lady would be here soon. A couple of hours passed, but Magdalena still didn't show up, and the father began to worry about his daughter since he couldn't see anyone nearby. Benjamin doesn't know what to say, he just stands there with his head down. Soon the lady finally appeared and apologized for being late. This was her first dinner with her father, so she still couldn't decide what to wear. The man replied harshly that he didn't care what she was wearing and asked her to come faster next time. The lady had never shown any emotion before, so it was strange for her father to see her so docile lately. Not long ago, she cried when she burned her hand, and for some reason she even wore this dress. The man decided to ask her directly if she knew what kind of dress she was wearing last time. Magdalena replied that this was the dress that my mother first wore to the New Year's ball when she was a princess. The girl clarified that she simply chose what suits their family best and what she likes best. She said that finding a husband was not her only goal. Her real goal was David von Leonard, the emperor himself. Magdalena didn't even move a muscle in her face when she said this. The father grabbed his head. He thinks that her joke went too far. Even the most influential nobles find it difficult to approach His Majesty, so how was she going to approach him? The lady asked him a counter-question: what would he do if his mother was crowned a princess? Demian replied that more than 20 years had already passed, and it was unlikely that His Majesty would think about her. After the death of the crown prince, the emperor needed his daughter. Magdalene read about this in a book, The Tragic Princess. His Majesty does not plan to appoint the second prince as his heir. It's surprising that his successor's position has been empty for so long, even though the second prince has long since matured. Magdalena had told her father that she would give him a different combination of cards. She had thought it all through well, and she knows exactly what she shouldn't do. The lady said she shouldn't side with Katrina Richmond. The Marchioness of Richmond is the core force of the party supporting the second prince, and if Magdalene accepts the help of the Richmond family, the emperor will be displeased in this situation. So she insisted on wearing Lily's dress. The lady thought it was the most sensible choice. In the worst case, she can say that she was forced to borrow the dress from her mother because she urgently needed it. Now the emperor needs her mother. Seeing the dress, he will take it as a sign from his daughter, whom he misses. A parent always accepts the child who first extends his hand. The man didn't know that his daughter was making such good use of her debt. This cunning girl, he can't believe that she thought everything through so far and so carefully. Having Lily reinstated as a princess after Magdalene convinced the emperor would be the best outcome for Demian. The husband of the empress and the father of the future empress is a magnificent position, and even if Magdalene falls into disgrace, it will not matter much. Because the man has Katrina, and she will certainly help him. All he can do is watch them from the shadows, and then take the most advantageous side. He thinks he's going to win either way, and that's great. So he gloats, smiling wickedly and hoping for a better outcome. As soon as Lily became an adult, she had no equal in beauty and glory, and the man did everything possible to get her. The only problem was that for the sake of the relationship, the princess foolishly broke off ties with her father, the emperor. Since it was Demian who caused the breakup between the princess and her father, he was quickly deprived of any business opportunities. If Lily made peace with the emperor, he would no longer have to curry favor with the crown prince, which would be more convenient in many ways. So he handed her a blank check that she could use however she wished. So the man said that she could contact him if she needed anything else. After some time, Magdalena is happy about the ticket in her room, while Meows quietly watches all this. She remembered the proverb, "Hate the man, but not his money." If playing the role of the unfortunate daughter she earned a blank check, it turns out that she hit the jackpot. Magdalena heard some kind of whistling coming from the street. The lady guessed that it was a demon. She asked Meows to warn her in the future when Kaiden came if he wanted to live with her. The man constantly asks Meows how Magdalena is doing, so the cat simply started to ignore him. When the girl went outside, she found no one there, and she became wary. Kaiden just snuck up behind her and scared her. He closed her eyes with his cold hand and said how my dear was doing. He pressed her against him so that she felt every curve of his body, every bulge of muscle under the thin fabric of his shirt. The lady doesn't understand what he's doing. She asked him to let her go, otherwise he'll be punished. The man replied that it was normal for a demon to do something indecent and that a demon could not be good. Then he pressed her against the wall, not roughly but hard enough that there was no room to maneuver. His breathing quickened. The scent of her hair tickled his nostrils. The desire to touch her body became unbearable. Kaiden knew it was risky and that the lady might push him away, but that didn't seem to matter right now. And yet, as he had expected, she pushed him away with all her strength. The man saw the fear in her eyes. It made the blood boil in his veins. Magdalena asked him what brought him here. He replied that he brought a gift for her. It was a mana stone that was connected to his heart. It would let him know when his woman was in danger, so he would be sure of her safety. Kaiden stated that she would not be able to take Mayaus with her to the debut ball. He decided to put a necklace on her. It could only be fastened with mana. The lady could not do it herself. She is tense about the fact that he will touch her again. He has a worried look that frightens Magdalene. His brows are furrowed. She felt his cold breath as he carefully placed the necklace on her. At that moment, they both heard someone's voice coming from inside the room. It was Jeffrey. He was told that the lady was in her room, but she was not there. He is worried. Doesn't she understand how dangerous it is at night? The guy decided to go out onto the terrace. Maybe she is there. Jeffrey went out but saw no one there. The thing is, Kaiden picked up Magdalena in his arms, and she flew up into the air to avoid the guy's eyes. The girl was scared. Her breath was taken away. She was interested in the question of how long and far he was going to fly. Kaiden seemed to sense her fear. He said that he would not let her fall under any circumstances, and she could relax. The girl felt safe in his strong arms. Magdalena doesn't know whether it was because of the dizzying height or for some other reason, but an electric current ran through her body. Her heart began to beat wildly, driving her crazy. Kaiden always wants to bite Magdalena's lovely snow-white neck. He is so drawn to her. She also felt that his body became hot. Perhaps the temperature rose due to the flight. The man asked her where she would like to go, and they could go there immediately. The girl replied that she had always dreamed of visiting the clock tower. Since childhood. She had been interested in what it would be like to stand on its top. Very soon they found themselves in that very place, with a stunning view from the largest clock in the empire. Kaiden suddenly asked the lady who the man was. Meow told him more than once that he saw some pink-haired man in the mansion. Magdalene asked him not to make anything up. She explained that there was nothing between her and Jeffrey. Kaiden doesn't believe that there can be a normal friendship between a man and a woman. The lady said that she didn't like him and generally considered him a fool. The man replied that he was angry that some strange guy was thinking about his wife and that it made him uncomfortable, because he knows that all men are vulgar and disgusting scum. Kaiden found himself thinking that he had stopped hearing Magdalene's thoughts since the moment he put the necklace on her. The lady said that he, too, sometimes behaved like a vulgar bastard, so it was unfair to think that about Jeffrey. But she sympathizes with his jealousy, which breaks through his apparent calm. The cat told him that the clingy guy personally brought her shoes as a gift and wanted to go to the ball with her as a guard. Kaiden countered that it would be better for her not to wear those shoes. Magdalena suddenly thought that even if he did nothing, she would still become his wife. Then why is he so hostile to someone who has no meaning for Magdalene? Sometimes Kaiden talks such nonsense, but the lady can't stay angry with him. Meow informed the owner of the emergency situation that Jeffrey had assembled a search party and was now looking for Milady's contractor. The man can't allow this guy to even breathe the same air as his wife, so he will have to somehow resolve this problem. He could erase his memories, but his power had not yet fully stabilized. The lady asked him to try to do this, since Jeffrey was the only one who saw that she was not in the room. Kaiden looked away, annoyed that Magdalena was calling the guy by his first name. After all, she never once uttered the name of her future husband. Then she promised that she would call him by his name whenever they were alone. She said his name and the man visibly calmed down. Now they need to go back. It will be problematic if the guards join the search, so Kaiden asked the lady to hug him. This is necessary so that he doesn't drag her around like some kind of luggage. He would fly very fast, so he told her to close her eyes. They needed to get back quickly and sort everything out. The girl asked him just not to harm Jeffrey. The demon made her promise not to touch the guy, at least not today. Meanwhile, Jeffrey can't find a place for himself. He sensed someone behind him and drew his sword from its sheath, ready to attack. He saw Kaiden and his expression changed. The demon told the boy that he didn't care who he was to Magdalene. For him, he was just an annoying bug. Jeffrey's body seemed to be frozen. He couldn't move. "Stop calling my wife by her name whenever you want, or I will tear you into little pieces," Kaiden said. After a short period of time, the subordinates found their commander alone in the depths of the forest. The demon was already next to Magdalene. He noticed that she was silent and thought about something. He asked if she was okay because she was shivering and it didn't seem to be from the cold. She replied that everything was fine. She just needed to rest a little. Kaiden was once again struck by the question of why he couldn't read her mind anymore when he could hear Jeffrey's. "He carefully covered my lady with a blanket so that she could warm up. The man hopes he hasn't caused her any problems." Magdalena politely asked Mayous to go out and see if anyone was coming towards them. He left the room with a displeased grimace. Afterwards, the girl asked Kaiden to come closer to her. He did so. Milady gently touched his cheek. Her touch awakened a whole whirlwind of sensations in him. His skin reacted instantly, sending goosebumps through his cold body. Magdalena thanked him for the unforgettable experience. She said that she had fun. The night sky was beautiful, and if it weren't for him, she would never have experienced anything like this, and seen all the beauty that was visible from the top of the clock tower. The man asked her if he seemed like a terrible demon to her, or if her opinion of him had changed after her night walk. She immediately replied that of course she didn't think he was bad. On the contrary, he had become very nice. Kaiden wondered, while he was forced to deal with the frantic flow of mana in the magic tower alone, if it was all just a dream. He began to remember the events that still stir his soul, even though he is a demon, but this did not prevent him from falling asleep. Magdalena, such a gentle and pure name. On the day when Kaiden and Magdalena first met, he listened to her ridiculous story out of pure curiosity. For him, it was like looking at an untouched, snow-covered field. That's why he was overcome by some kind of vicious desire every time. But reading her sweet thoughts, he calmed down. He would really like to know every curve, every line of her body, and see her gaze filled with tenderness. Kaiden never thought that things would go so far that he would dream of their breaths merging together, as well as their bodies. Each demon has its own unique ability. His is mind reading. The demon took great pleasure in teasing Magdalene with his ability, so he is quite upset that he can no longer hear her thoughts. One reason could be that since his power is not yet stable, the ability is also changeable. Another reason could be that under certain conditions it does not work. Magdalena passed the message through Meows to Kaiden. She decided to spend some money and asked him if he would like to accompany her. This was his contractor's first call, and the next morning they set out for a trading company near the north. They were greeted very warmly there. The Duke's vassal, who runs the largest trading company, couldn't believe that the princess's daughter had come to visit him. He paid special attention to the girl. His eyes sparkled. He took Magdalene's tender hand and kissed it. The man asked for a favor, to call him Baron Harfin. It would be an honor for him. Kaiden seems to be about to explode with jealousy. He sees a threat in everyone who looks at his future wife with shining eyes. Afterwards, they followed Harfin. He explained that since the north was surrounded by harsh mountains, it was a bit difficult to acquire goods. Therefore, instead of purchasing in the capital, they prefer to produce everything here or import it from neighboring countries by sea. And since it's the season of social events, they've stocked up on a huge amount of merchandise in advance. Baronet Harfin decided to show them what Duke Blake had ordered earlier. At first, Magdalena could not even imagine what it could be, but she became very interested. She saw many beautiful shoes, patent leather, decorated with beads, each pair beckoning with its gloss. Kaiden said he got them for her because he thought she liked fancy shoes, and she sat down on a soft ottoman. The man carefully took the lady's foot and decided to try one of the pair on her. An image of herself dancing in these shoes at a ball was already flashing through her head. Kaiden stated that these shoes suited her much better than the ones Jeffrey gave her. He looked at her, expecting approval, impatience in his eyes. The girl was embarrassed because there were many people around watching them. The man broke the heel of the shoes that the lady had been wearing, and he pretended that it happened by accident. He explained that when something dirty touches his wife's feet, it disrupts their connection. Kaiden said that from now on she would have to wear only what he gave her, otherwise he would be very angry and she would not like it. Magdalena didn't dare argue with him because he was so sweet, even when he talked about serious things. How can you argue with a man who radiates care and warmth even though he is of demonic blood? Kaiden turned to Harfin. He asked if he could keep a secret. The Baron replied that he could be relied on. Then the man said that everything he saw here today should remain a secret so that no problems would arise. Of course, Harfin promised to keep his mouth shut. He swore that he would not dare to utter a word. Kaiden laid his head on Magdalena's lap. He said that he was tired after bringing something here. The lady asked him to speak more quietly, and the baronet declared that he was very hard of hearing, so they could talk about anything. As if he could say otherwise, Kaiden said. Harfin turned to Magdalena. He already understood that she had exquisite taste and therefore offered her to choose several expensive things. Or he is ready to send everything that is here. He does not spare anything for the princess's daughter. There are so many luxurious things here that my lady is at a loss and has difficulty choosing. Kaiden looks at her silently and smiles. He seems even more beautiful. His eyes sparkle like shining stars. When Magdalena looks into them, it is difficult for her to resist. They seem to reflect the depth of the soul. The demon took out a mana stone from his pocket. It can only be found in his territory since it borders the demonic world. However, in the wrong hands, this stone can be dangerous, so only a small amount of stones are mined and used by the Duke. Although for the Duke's heir, it must be no different from any other stone. Milady said she was thinking of making a brooch out of it to give to her father. She didn't come here today to shop. The girl said that now was the time to throw in the second bait. Her main goal is to use shopping to appropriate the Collins fortune. Magdalena whispered softly in Kaiden's ear that she thought it was a great plan. When the lady handed Harrow Harfin a blank check, his mouth involuntarily dropped open. He said that he needed to leave to calculate everything and name the final amount. It would take some time. But the girl objected. She decided to write the amount right now and asked to give her a pen. It didn't take long, and she ended up with 200 million in gold, which is a huge amount. Even if she bought everything that was here, it would not amount to even 300 gold pieces. However, nobles sometimes buy works of art and other valuables at a high price in order to pocket the difference. But the Duke does not agree with Magdalene. He insists on paying everything in cash himself. After all, if she pays, it will no longer be considered a gift from him. Harfin wondered if this was really the Kaiden Blake he knew. He takes care of the payment and even gives the lady a rare mana stone. He was not so careless before. The Baron promised to send everything to the capital after them. He is head over heels in love with this girl. It seems like there will be a lot of interesting news soon, thought Harfin. Several days have passed since then, and Demian is interested in how the preparations for the ball are going. Magdalena replied that everything was very good. She looked pleased and literally glowed. She spent 200 million gold, more than enough to buy everything she needed. The girl bragged to her father about what she had bought. She showed jewelry, gloves, fans, and a huge number of shoes. She bought everything exactly what her father expected. He knew about all her preferences. Magdalene also gave her father a brooch as a gift for him. Damian didn't understand why she suddenly decided to buy him a gift. The lady explained that it was not a ruby brooch, but made of mana stone, so she said she needed to talk to him alone for a minute. The man thought that mana stones were mined in extremely small quantities, and Kaiden Blake strictly forbade them from being taken anywhere, while his daughter managed to get it. Demian asked everyone to leave and leave them alone with Magdalene. The father did not immediately believe his daughter. He decided that most likely she stole this stone, or it was not it at all, because it is almost impossible to get it. The girl guessed that he would suspect her of deception, so she brought something as evidence. She showed her father a solution that allows one to identify a mana stone when it hits him. The stone begins to glow brightly. The man was convinced of the authenticity of the solution when his daughter added a drop to the stone and it sewed. He said that he had heard that she needed help preparing for her debut, and Kaiden Blake took her to a merchant, saying that he would help. The girl confirmed that this was exactly the case, and she also stated that the Duke plans to stay in the capital for this season. Demian believes that he is looking for a bride for himself, since he has already reached the age of majority. Because of its rugged terrain and political views, the North has always been a very insular region. Duke Blake, Kaiden Blake's father, never showed himself in high society and eventually married a demon princess. Demian finds it strange that his son is now coming to the capital to join the social life. Have they really changed their views? Magdalena said she assumed they wanted to expand their influence in the capital. The Blake family has never shown any interest in the political arena, but now they want to make a name for themselves. And mana stones are a product that can interest everyone. The girl explained that Kaiden was looking for a main source of income, so she suggested to him the idea of turning these stones into accessories that could be worn. In return, he gave her this brooch, and she wanted to be the first customer to buy such an unusual piece of jewelry, so it could be considered an investment. If the Blake family were to start their own business, they would need a business partner in the intermediate zone. "It would be better to get this place in hand beforehand," said Milady, and she also told her father that she considered him a good candidate for this job. It just so happens that the domain is located right between the demonic world and the capital. The daughter asked her father to keep this brooch with him. It will make his sleep more sound, as it has magic that improves the quality of sleep. The lady said she remembered his sleep problems, so she made a special request of Kaiden. In fact, Magdalena is gloating. She is sure that one day, waking up from sweet dreams, her dad will be surrounded by hellfire. The long-awaited day of Milady's debut ball has finally arrived. A guest, Jeffrey, arrived at the mansion. Lily asked how he was feeling, because she had heard that he had lost consciousness right next to a tree in the forest, and that he had started hallucinating due to overwork. The guy replied that he was fine now. He had had a good rest the last few days and felt great. Jeffrey saw Earl Collins coming down the stairs. Today he will accompany Magdalene. Since the ball is taking place in the palace, Lily will be uncomfortable being there. Therefore, my lady's father will go with her. Jeffrey asked her not to worry about her, because he would look after Magdalene and would not take his eyes off her. He would get rid of any stranger who dared to approach her. Milady interrupted their conversation with her appearance. They watched in silence as she approached them. She looks good, wearing a golden dress made of the finest silk. Every thread seems to be saturated with light. She is dazzlingly beautiful. Lily was touched by the sight of her. She said, "And when did my daughter manage to grow up so much?" Magdalena's beauty is not only a gift of nature, she has worked hard on herself in anticipation of this day. The woman hugged her daughter and apologized for not being able to go with her on such an important day. But the girl doesn't hold a grudge against her mother at all, because she understands everything. She has a task to make sure to return everything to its place, the honorary title of mother and her beloved family. She looks into the eyes of a dear person and seems to be filled with strength that will help her in this difficult matter. Lily wished her daughter good luck and asked her to be smart. Darian took his daughter by the hand and they went to the ball. Due to anticipation, the man was able to sleep only a few hours, but he feels fresh and rested. Jeffrey asked Milady why she didn't wear the shoes he gave her. She replied that she wore them too often, and that's why the heels broke. All this time, Darian thinks only about how his daughter gave him a promise that she would give him full right to choose her husband if she failed. Then marrying her off to the heir of the Blake family would be a great idea. Kaiden Blake is restless and is already eagerly awaiting the arrival of his wife. The man looks for her in the crowd of flashing faces, hoping that right now, in the next second, she will appear and outshine everyone. Kaiden hears the thoughts of those around him. Someone whispers that he looks better than they say about him. And he is quite attractive for someone who was locked in a magic tower for many years, and his aura before the awakening of magical blood. People pointed at him just because he was the son of a demon. Now they're trying to get his attention for just a second. Magdalena finally arrived at the place. They were about to meet Kaiden. When he tries to hear what she's thinking, he stops hearing anything else. The girl entered the huge hall together with her father. They greeted Madam. The gazes of those around her immediately became riveted on her. Magdalena caught up with Demian. He said that he had arrived early and was waiting for her. The lady called him annoying and asked him to stay away from her, at least 20 steps away. Then she heard Kaiden's voice. Turning around, she saw that he was holding out his hand to her and smiling broadly. They talked for a short time and then parted ways. After a while, Magdalene and Jeffrey were left alone. The man was surprised that the lady was familiar with Lord Kaiden. She again repeated to him to move away from her. After all, she came here to find a mate, and who would want to talk to her when the commander of the Western Knightly Order was drilling them with his gaze? What a temperamental woman she is, thought Jeffrey. The lady said that she would approach that guy and pointed to Kaiden Blake. The man did not like her choice because there were bad rumors about him. He heard rumors that he went crazy after absorbing the energy of monsters, which is why he was locked in that tower. What's even more suspicious is that he suddenly decided to show himself in public. Magdalene declared that the Marquis of Richmond's son was handsome, polite, and very intelligent. She's just trying to explain to Jeffrey that the rumors might not be true. The man is furious. He doesn't understand what she could like about a demon. His blood-red eyes can't seem normal. Milady replied, smiling, that, on the contrary, it made him attractive, and she had a rather nasty type. Magdalene is very close to Jeffrey, so he believes that she should be with a man he will respect. That man must be better than anyone else. The ceremony was about to begin, so Kaiden Blake approached Milady again. He also introduced himself to Jeffrey and extended his hand. The man turned red with anger and barely restrained himself from hitting him, and then he just turned around and left. Magdalena also asked Kaiden not to press so close to her. After all, it would be very problematic if people started spreading rumors about it before it was introduced to everyone. The man replied that it was too late to try to avoid rumors, but he can't help himself. She's so charming today. He even thought about hiding it somewhere far away so that no one would see it. At that moment, it was announced that His Majesty had arrived. He had already heard that Magdalena had come here with Count Collins. This fearless son of a bitch got his daughter pregnant, and he was laying claim to her hand. His Majesty is outraged that Collins dared to come here in person instead of sending his daughter with a relative or companion. He considers him as shameless as he knew him before. Today, the Emperor personally conducts the debut ceremony. Even though the Empress and the Crown Prince were no longer with them, Prince Astor was still alive, Magdalena thought. The Emperor is clearly drawing the line for Prince Astor, since if he were to lead such an event, it would mean that the Emperor recognizes him as his successor, meaning everything is going according to plan. Next, the daughter of Earl Collins, Magdalene Collins, was introduced. They greeted His Majesty not just with a formal bow, but with a sincere, respectful gesture that reflected deep respect. Silence reigned in the hall, broken only by the rustle of ceremonial clothes. When the Emperor saw that very dress on Milady, time seemed to stop for him. His Majesty's gaze, calm and wise, slid over her appearance. He remembered that on that day, the first New Year celebration after the death of the Empress was to take place. Lily visited and talked to him every day while he grieved for his wife. One day, the girl came to her father to have him look at the dress she had chosen. He approved of her choice and said that it was very beautiful and suited her very well. Magdalene kissed His Majesty's hand, the light touch of her lips like a butterfly's wing touching his skin. Her barely audible sigh rolled through the hall. I wonder why this child decided to wear this dress, the Emperor thought. She looks exactly like Lily. After some time, the father expressed his admiration for his daughter. He noticed how the Emperor's gaze trembled, and he believes that this is due to my lady. The Emperor was stunned, she thought, because she had given her name as Magdalene Leonard. He could punish her for insulting the imperial family, but she doesn't think he will do it. When the lady looked into his eyes, a strong trust in him was born in the depths of her soul. Soon Catherine appeared in the hall. She expressed her respects and asked Magdalene how her audience with the Emperor had gone. The girl replied that everything went great. Catherine stated that she could not find Jeffrey, although he insisted on coming with her today. She also said that she had prepared a list of suitable candidates for Magdalena. To this, she received the answer that the lady had decided to make the choice herself. Having angered the Emperor, the Count lost all support, which meant he had no one to rely on. And so Katrina was the only one who managed to wedge him back into high society. But despite this, instead of remaining in her debt, he drew a line between them, so that her anger was justified. Katrina, of course, was not happy with the fact that she was removed from the search for a candidate. She turned nervously and left. Magdalena sighed, hoping that now this woman would not interfere in her affairs. The lady saw Kaiden Blake talking to some lady. This made her wary. When she approached them, the man immediately explained that the girl standing next to him was just talking about her. He said that the girl said that Magdalene was very similar to the former crown princess, and that she really came to look for a potential partner. Kaiden smiled and said that he came here for the same purpose. But the girl left unnoticed, and they no longer had anyone to put on the show for. What kind of base and curious people are here, the man thought. The ball was about to begin, and he asked Magdalene to give him the first dance. But the girl replied that she had promised the Count to consider several possible candidates. She could tell him that Kaiden fell in love with her at first sight, but she is afraid that if she rushes, he will force her into a marriage of convenience. So the lady asked the man to wait a little longer. Jeffrey Richmond is back next to Magdalene, annoyed that Kaiden is hanging around her. He came closer to them and announced that he and my lady needed to discuss something. Kaiden thought it was rude that he had so brazenly interrupted them in the middle of their conversation. Jeffrey brazenly explained that the Countess had personally asked him to keep any suspicious characters away from her daughter, and therefore he believes that Milady's first dance should be with him, so that he can at least protect her from all the unworthy ones. Kaiden looked at the girl and asked if she could imagine what would happen if she gave her first dance to Jeffrey. Both men await her decision. Magdalena, without hesitation, answered that she would not dance with any of them. They should wake up from their illusions. She turned around and walked quickly away from them. The most promising bachelor in the Empire, and the only heir to the Duke. At this rate, no one else would dare come close to Milady. At a debutante ball, ladies cannot dance unless the men ask them first. It would be hard to find a better place to compare men than this. But unfortunately, even after 5 songs, no one asked Magdalena to dance with him. That's why the girl stands alone with a glass of wine, even though there are many men around. Catherine gossips that although Milady is the child of the Emperor's beloved daughter, all ties between them have long been severed. Magdalena realized that it looked like she would have to change her plans. Katrina forbade anyone to invite the lady to her first dance. This was the warning from the woman who ruled high society. Jeffrey risks the Emperor's wrath for his sympathy for the girl. Katrina does not approve of his behavior because he has too much to lose. The heir to the Richmond family and commander of the Western Order of Knights says he never wanted the titles. The woman wanted to say something to him, but the music changed and interrupted her. Kaiden Blake bribed because he didn't like the music. He approached Milady again and asked her to give him this dance. She could no longer refuse him, not because she weakened before his pressure, but because this time his request sounded like a plea. They merged in the dance like 2 rivers, feeling each other's attraction and passion. The man asked her what she would do if they had not signed the contract. She doesn't understand why he pays so much attention to her. Is he simply fulfilling his contractual obligations, or is some demonic instinct telling him to charm her? Although the lady understands that it is dangerous, she cannot help but reach for the forbidden fruit, which is Kaiden. If this continues, she may forget about her revenge and become carried away by a man, and this will be completely inopportune. The music ended and he asked her to dance again, although according to tradition, one cannot dance with the same partner several times in a row. The girl asked him to be patient and wait. She turned around and walked away from him. Magdalena was already waiting for a dance partner. Of course it was Jeffrey. He waited patiently and now asked her to dance with him. Everything from the uncomfortable familiarity that comes from the years they've known each other to the slight warmth between them irritates Kaiden. He does not want to break or torment. He is only gnawed by a desperate desire to appropriate Magdalene. It started after he gave her the demon heart. Now he thinks they shouldn't have tied the manna. In the end, Milady agreed to dance with Jeffrey. This made Katrina very angry. She was nearby and watching the couple. The guy apologized to Magdalena for his mother because sometimes she doesn't watch her words and behaves disgustingly. She realized that it was better to rebel against his mother through him. Suddenly, Jeffrey asked her if he wanted revenge. Milady is surprised by such a proposal. After all, no matter what Katrina is, she is his mother. She immediately told him that if he was expecting a reward for his clumsy sympathy, then he could not even dream of it. The girl also added that she would take revenge, and he would rebel against his mother, so they would simply use each other. Jeffrey asked her not to worry, since that was why he had followed her here in the first place. While they are talking all this time, Kaiden Blake can't take his eyes off them. He watches their every move. Up until this point, he had felt only a vague irritation, but now rage was seething in his chest. Katrina was also watching them and was angry. However, she is glad that her son was not the first to dance with Milady. When Jeffrey and Magdalene stopped dancing, they approached the Countess of Richmond and greeted her. The woman smiled slyly, as if she was up to something bad. She said she didn't know how to thank them for their attention, but the lady didn't understand what she meant. Just in case, the girl reminded Katrina that she would choose her husband herself, and how could she marry someone who was like a brother to her? But Marquise Richmond tries to make it look like the lady deliberately stopped the other nobles in order to force her to get along only with Jeffrey. The woman clarified that she had simply asked her son to dance with her and apologized for hurting her feelings. Jeffrey was very concerned because it seemed to him that members of their family wanted to take Magdalene for themselves. Katrina frowned again and made a face as if she had eaten a lemon. Kaiden Blake approached them cautiously. "You see, I also find Lady Magdalene incredibly charming," said the man. He asked that misunderstandings of this kind not be repeated again. Kaiden means that Katrina should no longer stick her beautiful nose into other people's business. Of course, Milady has not yet given him an official answer, but he will not tire of waiting. The man said that he was sure she would make the right choice. He realizes that given Katrina's current situation, it would take little to make everyone turn away from her, but enough to at least sow doubt in them. Kaiden took Magdalena's hand, and they walked away from the crowd. The girl whispered to the man that she would owe him for today because he helped her out. Only she warned me not to ask for anything strange as a reward, but he can't figure out himself, his desire to tease her. Is it just a demonic impulse, or maybe it's something else? They say that people captured by demons never come to their senses, but in his case it seems to be quite the opposite. The ruler asked his subordinate if he had seen his granddaughter. He said that when the ball began, she stood all alone because no one wanted to dance with her. Under normal circumstances, the Marchioness of Richmond would have taken it upon herself to show her around the room and introduce her to potential suitors. More than 20 years had passed since he had stripped Lily of her princess title, but even so, he had not stopped secretly keeping an eye on his daughter. The emperor believes that one day Lily will understand that her husband only became close to her for the sake of power. If she left with that bastard because she was pregnant at the time, all she needs to do is throw herself into her father's arms. The emperor had not yet named the next heir, as it was necessary to prevent Aster from targeting Lily. He ordered his subordinate to invite Milady Magdalene to him, but to do it very carefully. The man will immediately carry out the imperial order. The ruler is already looking forward to a new meeting with the sweet girl. Magdalena returned from the ball very exhausted and tired. Feeling weak, she wanted to fall on the bed and sleep. Her mother came into her room to find out how the evening went. Magdalena suggested that they sleep together today, just like in childhood. Lily noticed that her daughter had been acting like a child lately. She asked her if she had met a man she liked at first sight. The girl replied that she met a guy. They exchanged greetings and even danced with him. She decided that now was the time to tell who he was. The lady said that the guy was Lord Kaiden Blake, but she asked her mother to keep it a secret for now, because she promised her father to consider several candidates in exchange for refusing a marriage of convenience. Magdalena will pretend to listen to her father, and when the time comes, she will certainly tell him everything. Lily asked how His Majesty was feeling, to which the lady replied that he was in perfect health, although to be honest, he didn't look very good. According to the book, the tragic princess should have already started adding poison to him, so it's not surprising, Magdalena thought. She wants to see him again as soon as possible. She asked her mother if she had ever held a grudge against His Majesty. At that moment, Kaiden was listening to their conversation. The woman replied that, of course, at first she was offended and disappointed with him because he did not trust her. But when she became a parent herself, she began to understand him a little. Lily is ready to do anything for her daughter, and it is not enough for her to just look at her. The woman realized that her father must have been in pain too. However, she does not regret getting married because she has a beautiful daughter. A few days later, my lady received a lot of gifts. She had never seen such a large number of bouquets in her life. She also received a lot of letters, some of which were from men who simply showed little interest and were not concerned about sending marriage proposals. Suddenly, Magdalena noticed a bouquet of black roses, which is quite an unusual way to express romantic interest. In the letter she read the lines, "Paying tribute to eternal beauty, I would like to invite you to dinner." It also lists her full name, although she only gave her last name to 2 people. This was definitely an invitation from the emperor, the girl thought. Very soon she went to meet the emperor and was well received. She thanked him for his care and warm welcome. Formally, that letter was sent to her by the second son of the Jenkins family. He does not have a high status. But since he is one of the imperial knights, he is undoubtedly a loyal subject of the emperor. He said that tonight's dinner would be best served with wine. They just happened to have some fine bottles in the cellar. He invited the lady to look at them. This was the emperor's best way to arrange a secret meeting with Magdalene. Now they can finally talk. He is already waiting for Milady Magdalene. The ruler seemed to sense her presence. He froze and felt his heart beat faster. The girl entered and greeted Lord Legend. He asked her to sit down. The emperor said that they had little time, so they had to get down to business right away. The first thing he asked was why she had introduced herself as Magdalene Leonard. Depending on her answer, he may accuse her of insulting the imperial family. She dared to remind him of his deposed daughter and also brazenly use the imperial family name. He believes that it is unlikely that a young lady who has just made her debut in high society would do such a thing on her own, which means that someone else is involved. The girl replied that her father wanted to make peace with him, and so did she. She also stated that she is not on her father's side at all. She thinks that he should have nothing to do with this reconciliation. The ruler was angry and asked her to give a plausible reason. Magdalena lowered her eyes and said that she risked her life to come to this meeting for only one purpose. Earl Collins took his daughter away from him, thereby breaking the bond between parent and child. And then, shamelessly and without the slightest twinge of conscience, he cheated on his wife with her friend. That's why she wants to take revenge on her father for her mother's suffering. The emperor asked if Lily knew about this. The lady replied that she was still not sure about it. The man thought that if he could, he would personally tear Earl Collins to shreds. He realized that the lady wanted him to help her take revenge on the impudent man. She knows she shouldn't ask the son of this country for such a rude request, but by taking her revenge, she can spare him one headache. However, if he continues to delay the election, then her mother will be next on Prince Astor's list. Magdalene knows how much the emperor values his daughter, but she also knows that he cannot act rashly, as it could put her in danger. Lord Legend needs a successor, so she asks him to make a deal to restore Lily to her title of princess. The girl said that she understood that it was not that easy, and that there would be many difficulties on the path to her recovery. Her mother has no support, and the Collins family will start putting spokes in her wheels. That is why the lady gives the ruler 2 trump cards at once: her marriage to the heir of the Blake family and her mother's divorce. He remembered that she danced with Kaiden at the ball. The Lord told her that if she married the heir of Duke Blake, the son of the Demon Queen, it would be a great opportunity to appropriate the military forces of the North. Moreover, the North does not want Prince Astor, who is a member of the anti-demon faction, to inherit the throne. But Earl Collins will not agree to a divorce so easily, so Milady learned that there are many ways to get a divorce in the temple. In the Legend Empire, adultery is not a sufficient reason for divorce. However, divorce is allowed in cases where the family cannot produce an heir who will become the next head. When a family is broke, or a spouse is unable to lead a normal life due to mental illness, Magdalena can use anything to get a divorce. The emperor thought about it. He knew it was not easy for a young lady, but the offer was too tempting to refuse. He promised to restore her mother once she fulfilled her conditions. They finished their conversation, and the man decided to leave first. Magdalene asked him to shake hands in honor of the agreement. She seemed quite brave to approach him with this proposal without hesitation. He, of course, did not refuse her this request. They shook hands and said goodbye. Meanwhile, Kaiden Blake trains with a sword knight. The man takes out his anger on the knights every time something upsets him. None of the knights present here will be able to defeat Lord Kaiden. Over the past week, Magdalena has not contacted him once. Suddenly, the head of the Blake family, Duke Ethan Blake, appeared behind the man. He said that he could defeat him and asked to attack with all his might. The fight is about to begin. Every molecule of space seems to have frozen in anticipation of the first blow. Ethan, the embodiment of power and fierce strength, his movements are full of the grace of a wild animal. But every move Kaiden makes is carefully thought out, and they stand opposite each other like 2 predators. The Duke said that power should be used for its intended purpose, and not just to vent one's anger. In a moment, the blade of the sword was already at Kaiden Blake's neck. Ethan brazenly told the boy that if he needed a punching bag, he should look elsewhere instead of taking it out on the knights who had sworn their lives to the Blake family. The man turned and walked away, and Kaiden thought about his words. He is troubled by the fact that he cannot read his father's mind, nor his contract partner's mind. Meanwhile, Magdalene met with the imperial physician, Baron Phillips. It is not strange that a student came to see his teacher. But besides this, my lady has urgent business with him. She said that she had come to talk to him about the emperor's health. The man pretended not to hear anything, because he was the imperial physician and could not talk about the emperor's health with strangers. Then Magdalene tried to convince him that this conversation was very important. She asked him to look at something and took some mushrooms out of her bag. Phillips picked them up and began to examine them. They looked strange. He had never seen anything like them. Most people don't know about them because they haven't been studied in scientific circles yet. Milady explained that it was a satanic mushroom known only among knights who hunted monsters. Right in front of Phillips, Magdalena ate a couple of these mushrooms. He asked in horror to spit them out immediately. You can't just take and eat something suspicious. The girl replied that nothing would happen from a couple of mushrooms. Moreover, it was the fastest way to show him clearly. The symptoms appeared quite quickly, and Milady asked the Baron to examine her hand. He took her palm and saw that a crescent-shaped pattern had appeared on her nails, and warmth was emanating from her fingertips. The lady stated that she had noticed the same symptoms in His Majesty. What she means is that the Emperor has been using satanic mushrooms for quite some time. This mushroom acts as a stimulant, so consuming it in small amounts can be beneficial, but long-term use causes side effects. This is why knights use it for short periods of time when they need to stay up all night while hunting monsters. And the side effects are as follows. It all starts with dry mouth, then an upset stomach and dizziness appear, and eventually the person can fall into a coma. Phillips recalled that His Majesty had complained of similar symptoms recently, but they were quite common among people his age, and he had no other problems, so the man simply observed his condition. He examines the Emperor daily, but has not seen any marks similar to those on Milady's fingers. The effects of the mushroom disappear within a few hours after taking it. Milady met him late in the evening, so she believes that he took the mushroom after the examination. Phillips says that after the evening inspection, His Majesty drinks tea while reading books, which is probably when he uses this nasty stuff. The girl asked to check his tea or to forbid him from drinking it for a few days and observe his condition. A few days later, Viscount Grissom's masquerade began. The Viscount is a loyal follower of Prince Astor, so this is essentially a ball thrown by the prince, and Lily would not be comfortable attending it. Darien asked his daughter if there was any news about the Duke's heir. The girl apologized to her father in advance for calling the man by his name. She said that he was not used to being called Lord Kaiden, and he himself called her by her name. The father realized that they had already dropped the formalities between themselves, and he couldn't wait to see what would come of it. The Duke of Blake's heir had openly shown his interest in Magdalene at the ball, but Darien was worried because he had not sent a single bouquet after that. But still, after the celebration, some progress was noted. He believes that Prince Astor is already aware that he humiliated Katrina at the last ball, and for his own safety, he needs to make sure that Magdalene will definitely marry the Duke's heir. In that case, he will acquire sufficient military power to oppose the Emperor. Darien is happy. He thinks that the clan, having secured the support of the demonic world, will take his side. Meanwhile, the masquerade is in full swing. Prince Astaire must have been very hurt that he wasn't invited to the debutante ball. This celebration was organized by a simple viscount, but it seems much more extravagant than the imperial ball. All those who have masks on their faces are not married, and they stand out quite a lot. Magdalena saw that Katrina was also at this ball, walking among a huge crowd of people. Then, out of nowhere, Astor Leonard appeared. He saw Milady and her father, and immediately went up to greet them. The bastard who took advantage of Lily's love for her daughter and made her spit blood before she died. Darien told his daughter that this important man was her uncle. He introduced Magdalena and Astor to each other. At that moment, the girl had a thought in her head that she would make this bastard pay for everything. She forced a smile onto her face and bowed to him, feigning respect. In fact, the girl feels angry. She will definitely make sure that his suffering is many times greater than that of his mother and him, and she will personally push him into the underworld. But for now, she ostentatiously wishes him good health. Jeffrey also arrived at the ball, also wearing a mask, and tried to change his voice when he spoke to her, hoping that Magdalene would not recognize him. But he didn't manage to trick her. She immediately exposed the trickster. The girl smiled and said it was funny. The guy said he suspected his mother had planted someone there, so he decided to keep an eye on the lady. He then said that he had already noticed several suspicious individuals here. That guy in the black mask behind is very suspicious. He is the elder of Count Otter. He is a player who flirts with every skirt. Green mask with horns, his second son. He may seem normal, but in reality, he is an impenetrable fool. In other words, Katrina had planted bombs that would explode on contact, brought in all sorts of rabble. She had prepared so carefully that Magdalene thought she could pretend to fall for it. Jeffrey pointed to the guy in the demon mask and clarified that no one else really posed much of a threat. The girl looked at the man and realized that he was talking about Kaiden Blake. Her heart began to beat wildly again. He walked towards them because he saw the pink-haired man clinging to Magdalene again. I wonder if the hero will be able to save the princess, but it seems the princess has already succumbed to temptation. Kaiden turned to the guy, asking him to exercise his heightened sense of justice somewhere else. As if mocking him, he said that he had come up with something very obscene. After this, Jeffrey became very angry and was ready to hit the man, but the lady asked him to leave him and Kaiden alone for a little while. She promised that she would be okay. Still, Jeffrey gave in to Magdalene and left. The man looked at the lady and said that he put on this mask to make it easier for her to find him, but he did not understand why she was flirting with another. She asked him to watch his language because there were a lot of people here. Then he asked her to give him the first dance and extended his hand. This time the lady agreed quite easily, and they began to dance. Milady said that after the debutante's ball, many people went out of their way to prevent him from getting ahead. Later, a man sent by Katrina should approach her. She's sure that Prince Aster has his eye on her, so if she stays with Kaiden for the rest of the evening, it will be a provocation. That's why she asked him not to make a scene. The man reluctantly agreed. He promised that he would not follow her around. He noticed that she was wearing a stone, that is, a demonic heart, and decided that it was for self-defense. She was afraid of getting some kind of injury. After all, in essence, she is now standing on a battlefield full of enemies. Though she always put herself in danger so easily, Kaiden thought. To tell the truth, he is now going crazy with the desire to read her thoughts and see what expression is hidden under her mask. The man is worried about her, although he is sure that there is hardly anyone stronger than the demon here. At this time, Darian approached Katrina and asked if she would put a spoke in his daughter's wheel, as she did during her debut. She pretended not to understand what he was talking about. Just recently, he was groveling at her feet, but as soon as the Blake family showed interest, he immediately spread his wings. Katrina told Darian that the prince wanted to talk to him. It was not worth turning him against himself yet, the man thought, and so he went to him, where they were already waiting for him. The prince greeted him in a friendly manner and invited him to sit down and have a drink. He asked how his sister was doing. Darian replied that everything was fine as always, but the guy didn't believe him. He showed the Count that he had changed a lot. The Count tried to remain calm because he couldn't let the prince know that he was nervous. Fillens then asked what made Magdalene interested in marriage, but the man replied that sometimes even a parent cannot understand their child. Darian noticed that there was one dog next to the guy, although before there had always been two. When he asked what happened to the second dog, he was told that it had bared its teeth at him and had to be killed. While Kaiden was leaving, the first man approached Magdalene. Belek Otter, the eldest son of Count Otter, who is a walker, the lady decided to play along with him. Belek offered her a drink for her beautiful eyes. She replied that she would be happy to. The man promised that he would personally take her home if she got too drunk, but nothing bad would happen from one glass of champagne. The lady said that such a crowd of people gave her a headache. Then he suggested that she go to a quiet place. They went out onto the balcony, and the man noticed that her glass was almost empty, so he asked how she was feeling. She replied that her head was a little dizzy and she had a favor to ask of him. The lady asked him to take off his mask to see his face. He did not refuse her this, and removed the mask from her face, at which time she realized that she felt ill. She can't believe that a man like him could use such a terrible drug. Before, Milady had doubts, but seeing his face, she was convinced this Belek Otter, he once pulled off something similar and destroyed his family. She admitted that she had heard that his father was involved in the black market. The man became noticeably nervous. Then she suggested that he prove his innocence by finishing the champagne from her glass. He blushed and felt hot. Out of desperation, Belek dropped her glass and it shattered into pieces. Then Milady said that his reaction spoke for itself. The man began to assure her that the glass had simply slipped out of her hands. He decided that she had no more evidence. He also added that he was simply expressing his admiration for her, and he would never have slipped her a prohibited substance, especially since she is now completely fine. Magdalena stated that she had taken the glass he had broken from the drinks table, but that she had left the one he had given her on a table in the corner of the ballroom. And since he insists on his innocence, she will now check the contents of that glass. After all, she studied medicine before her debut in high society. In addition, her teacher is a specialist in identifying poisons in liquids. Belek asked her to stop immediately and listen to him. He is in a complete panic, however. He only knows how to seduce women and lead them around by the nose. He probably never felt such shame before. Magdalene just wants to report him to the Imperial Guard and put him behind bars. But it was probably Katrina who convinced the man to ruin her life. She said she would turn a blind eye to it, but on one condition he must tell the Marchioness of Richmond that he was completely enchanted by her. Then Katrina decided that her plan had succeeded. This way the woman will stop interfering in Magdalen's affairs, and after that, he will have to send her a marriage proposal. The girl warned that the proposal should be official and formal. Now she will go first, and it would be better for him to stay here for a little while. He knows what could happen if someone else found out about their conversation. Belek agreed to this deal with Magdalene because he was caught off guard, but he is very angry and does not want to do what she says so easily. As the man walked along, grumbling about how much of an upstart my lady was, he met Kaiden Blake on his way. He was afraid of the devil, especially when he looked into his eyes. Meanwhile, my lady has already gone out into the hall. She thinks that Kaiden and Geoffrey should keep a decent distance from her. She heard a voice behind her. A man called the girl his niece. She turned around and saw Aster. He invited her to dance. Magdalena decided that she could not reject him here, so she replied that it would be an honor for her. Although it is terrible for her, as if every time the man who killed her mother touches her, bugs crawl over her body. But she must remain calm and smile while listening to his compliments. The man whispered that she looked exactly like his sister, who was the beautiful flower of legend. He also stated that he had to find her a suitable candidate for the role of husband, because she is the precious daughter of his beloved sister. The man added that he hopes his sister will remain in good health for a long time. Finally, their dance ended and the girl breathed a sigh of relief. But everything is fine. My lady expected the worst. She cannot show her feelings. She must act as if nothing happened, even remembering the terrible moments. She was lost in thought, but Kaiden found her and she felt better. He thought he saw her coming this way. At that moment, Magdalena suddenly began to cry. She did not expect this from herself. She turned away from him and began to wipe away the tears with her hand. They flowed from her eyes like a river. Kaiden carefully and silently covered her with his dragoon. After that, he took her by the hand and led her somewhere. She asked where they were going in the midst of the celebration. The man then said that she needed to eat something sweet, but the lady refused. He tried to persuade her by saying that he was drunk and she should eat with him, but the girl knows that he didn't even drink much. Despite this, she continued to go with him. After walking a little through the park, Milady said that her feet hurt from the heels, but Kaiden knows an easy way to get there. He picked her up in his arms and they took off. This is not the first time, but Magdalena still can't get used to it. She's still a little scared just like before. Although in the strong hands of this demon, it is very reliable. Kaiden asked not to look down and promised that they would arrive at the place soon. A cool wind wraps around her body and the fresh air clears her mind. And Milady naturally feels Kaiden's hands, his warmth and breath. Magdalena's heart began to beat very hard. She thought he could hear it. Very soon the magic tower began to appear, and they found themselves in this place again. This is where they first met Kaiden, but the girl was worried that they had gone too far from her house. But the man seriously stated that he had kidnapped her, and he is sure that she has something to tell him, so they are alone now. But now he needed to change his clothes, and he said with a smile that she could look at his body if she wanted. The lady became embarrassed and turned away. He continued that this would not be new for her, since she saw his torso the very first time they met. She blushed even more and promised to wait for him outside. Then he promised not to tease her anymore. It was very cold outside, so Kaiden asked her to stay inside the tower. The moment he saw Magdalene crying in the corridor, everything inside seemed to freeze. The woman who didn't even flinch when a sword was held to her throat, the one who was always confident and brave, began to cry. He didn't want her to cry because of him now, so he changed his clothes and quickly returned. The man suggested that she should also change her clothes because this dress looked very uncomfortable. Milady replied that everything was fine and trembled as if she was afraid of him. He still tried to make her change clothes. He showed her where the change of clothes was and was about to leave. She thought he was just doing what he wanted, but in reality, he really cares about her. Then the lady apologized for the inconvenience, but she couldn't take off this dress on her own. She dared to ask him for help. He didn't expect it. Kaiden asked in a vulgar tone, "Do you want me to undress you?" Milady replied that he simply needed to untie the bow on her back and pulled her hair back, exposing her shoulders. He's surprised that she has to wear something like this all the time. No wonder she always has trouble breathing. Her chest was literally shackled by a tight corset. All he has to do is pull the ribbon, but he has never done it before, so he finds it difficult. Finally, he succeeded. He loosened the laces, and my lady began to breathe easier. But Kaiden was too close to the girl. He stood as if he was stuck to her, but having come to his senses, he still came out. Some time passed after Magdalena had changed her clothes, but Kaiden still did not enter the room. She began to wander around the room, waiting for him. His shirt almost reached her knees, she didn't know, but he really was very tall, and the sleeves were so long that she had to roll them up twice. Suddenly she became interested in what Kaiden was thinking as he stood in front of this mirror, what he felt watching himself turn into a demon day by day. At this time, Kaiden knocked on the door and entered the room. He remembered that she had not eaten anything and brought food for her. Magdalena was so worried that she couldn't swallow a bite, but she started eating so as not to upset him. He said that he cooked it for her himself. He has lived alone for a long time, and he needed to cook in order to survive, so he learned how to do it. He looks like a puppy waiting for praise from his master. My lady said that he cooks magically and collapsed on the bed. Then he brought her something else, some honey-sweetened chocolate and a glass of warm wine. It turned out to be very tasty. My lady didn't know that wine and chocolate go together so well. The man admitted that he always ate this when he couldn't sleep because of pain. It helped him. He experienced extreme pain before he became a demon. In fact, he doesn't remember much because he was out of his mind most of the time. Then he needed an object of hatred and anger. Then he became it for himself. Alone here, he played it over and over in his head. If he is not a demon and not a human, then who is he? These thoughts did not leave his head. He also said that when she called his name, he felt like he could finally breathe. That he wasn't a cursed half-breed or the prized heir of the Duke of Blake, but simply Kaiden. So he wants to try not to hate himself anymore. Magdalena took the guy by the hand and admitted that she also hated herself and cursed half of her disgusting life, but after meeting him, she wanted to live. She laid her head on the pillow and quickly fell asleep. Kaiden looked at her for a long time because when she sleeps, she is even more beautiful. When she woke up in the morning, she was horrified to find herself in her room. Magdalena saw her maid and did not understand how she ended up there. When the girl had put herself in order, she immediately came to her father. She said that she was very tired yesterday, so she left the ball early. Her father asked her to warn him every time she went somewhere. She apologized and was surprised that he reacted more calmly than usual. Someone must have seen her leaving with Kaiden. Since Aster had even gone so far as to intimidate him, he would never let this man off the hook. The prince's warning was stern. Surely the count is waiting with even greater interest for Magdalene to join the Blake family. But Meowther the cat scolded her. He was shocked that an unmarried woman could stay the night with the infamous hired demon. He won't just tell her how she ended up home without getting anything in return. The girl gave the cat some tasty dried meat and he became kinder. He ate and told her that Kaiden flew through the window holding her in his arms. As soon as he arrived, he immediately began to interrogate him about how things were going on the estate. So after going around the area, Meowser told him that everyone had gone to bed. But when Magdalena woke up, she was wearing Kaiden's shirt. If the maids had noticed that her dress was missing, the entire estate would have been in an uproar. Meowser said that Kaiden brought it separately and hung it neatly in the closet. The cat also said that the man left a message for her, asking her not to worry in vain because he did nothing. He really is very caring and careful, thought my lady. He knew that she would be worried and even brought a dress. Meowser had already begun to think that Magdalena had forgotten about him because she was always walking somewhere. Alice knocked on the door and told the lady that she needed to get dressed quickly and go down to the living room. Several gentlemen are waiting for her there and say that they want to propose to her. The maid is so jealous of my lady. All those men are from young lords from noble families. There is the eldest son of Lord Rodriguez, the second son of the Marquis of Knox, the eldest son of the Margrave Osborne, and the second son of Viscount Brown. Exactly the ones Geoffrey named to Magdalene at the masquerade. They are all Katrina's pawns, but that drug addict Bellic O'Terre didn't show up. Milady thought that maybe she could make those men worry and reschedule the meeting with them. She told Alice that she wasn't feeling well. She also asked to be sure to tell them that she was tired from overexertion last night. The maid reported this to Magdalene's mother, as she felt she should know. The woman thought that she should go down to those men herself. They can't send the guests away without greeting them properly. But being a countess, she cannot go to them like this, so they will have to wait a little longer. The gentlemen have been waiting for Magdalene for hours now, but she still hasn't appeared. Finally, Countess Lily, the former princess, came to them. They were very surprised to see her and even forgot about greeting her. They came to their senses and began to apologize for their mistake, but continued to stand there with their mouths open. She said that she doesn't hold a grudge against them because this is their first meeting, and they are impressed. Since Lily didn't know that they would have guests today, everything was prepared in a hurry, but everything turned out very tasty. After all, it was not proper for nobles to visit the Count's estate without prior notice, especially when it comes to such an important event as a marriage proposal. Lily asked the guests not to be shy and offered them to eat. All the dishes were delicious because they had a very talented chef. The woman asked Lord Rodriguez why he loved her daughter. She is interested in how other people see her daughter. The man replied that his parents had told him to propose to Milady, and besides, she had a pretty face. All the other men agreed with him. They said that Magdalene was very beautiful and attractive. Then Lily asked another question. Did they all want to marry Milady because of her beauty, despite the fact that their wife would be running such an authoritative house? Over time, beauty will fade, and yet they put it as a priority, which made the woman anxious. Lily is confident that they will understand that her daughter's beauty is not her only plus, but they should talk to her. They probably stirred when they saw the lady leaving with Lord Kaiden, the woman thought. Kaiden has incomparably better qualities than these men, especially since he is the first man that Lily's daughter liked. That's why she decided to help her daughter stay with her loved one at all costs. Meanwhile, Katrina came to Baron Phillips. He said he was too busy, so he got straight to the point. The guy asked if she had chosen the girl her son would marry. She felt uneasy about this question. She didn't want Jeffrey to be drawn into all this, so she replied that he was not yet ready for marriage. But the guy said that he didn't think so. Her son was already a mature enough man. He grabbed Katrina and stated that his father thought the same thing, so he was postponing the announcement of his successor. She started crying, and the guy said he didn't mean to scare her, but he just meant that she should give her child a chance. He hates looking at the frozen faces of the people in front of him. The man is thinking about finding a match for her son and has decided that his niece, Magdalene, would be the best choice for this. He suggested that they would make a great couple. But the woman insists that they both will reject the union because they grew up as brother and sister. Then the guy said that he knew that she was against their union because of Earl Collins. She intended to become a countess instead of a marchioness. But that would be difficult while the count was alive, he added, so she was going to increase his dose of the drug. Then he reminded her that he had chosen her, not the marquis, and helped her become the queen of high society. Katrina promised in a trembling voice to send a marriage proposal. If she doesn't want her son to find out her secret, she should think carefully about her next steps. It would be very bad if someone found out about her scandalous double life. She can't let Jeffrey find out everything. When the woman returned home, she immediately suggested that her son marry Magdalene. But Jeffrey is shocked. She would never suggest this in her right mind. He asked her to give up this idea since he was not her puppet. Katrina said there was no reason why he couldn't marry Magdalene. The man asked if I was really Richmond, Mom, and she was stunned. The woman asked not to listen to all these gossips who say that he is not Richmond's son. Jeffrey knows that people have been calling him a cuckoo for a long time, but he didn't pay attention to it. After all, no matter what others said, he remained his mother's son, and he also loved and respected his father. However, after visiting the Collins family estate with his mother and witnessing a scene, he began to think. He saw his mother with Darian. He thought that that man might be his father. As soon as he thought about it, he was overwhelmed by memories of the rumors that were spreading in high society, where people whispered that the Earl of Collins was the secret lover of the Marchioness of Richmond, and people also said that the Marquis of Richmond was sterile. Jeffrey was infinitely grateful to Magdalene, who did not change her attitude towards him. He thought that most likely she knew about everything. Katrina explained to her son that despite the fact that he and Milady were like brother and sister, this was how marriages were usually concluded among nobles. She asked him to think about it, because sending a proposal did not mean that he would have to marry her. This is the prince's order. All this is only for their well-being. A few days later, Jeffrey came to Magdalene with a bouquet of flowers, but she doesn't understand what the flowers are for. The man immediately admitted that his mother forced him to buy this bouquet. The girl already knew about the marriage proposal and with a displeased face asked him to propose to her properly. She promised to listen to him, but he decided that they had all gone crazy, because the kind of bastard he advised to avoid has now come to propose to her, and it doesn't bother her at all. He is concerned about this situation because she really is like a sister to him. He himself is already being drawn into this mess. He suddenly jumped up from his seat and shouted whether she was really in love with that crazy man named Kaiden from the Blake family. Milady replied that he was the best option of all available, and besides, he was handsome. The man grabbed his head because he decided that she was out of her mind. But she said that she knew that he came to her not only because he was worried about Kaiden, but also because of Prince Aster. Jeffrey was surprised at how much she knew. The girl also asked him if he knew who his biological father was. The guy replied that he was interested. He loves his father very much, even though he is not his biological father. The girl saw Jeffrey's sad face and said that he should blame himself for something he had no choice in. He is upset that despite the treatment his father is not getting better, he shared that this frightens him a lot. Then Milady suggested examining his father. He, of course, did not object. Afterwards, they chatted a little more and said goodbye. The girl immediately had an idea. Why not wake up the Marquise's worst enemy? Kaiden Blake talked to his father. He said that he wants to get married. The boy still can't read his father's mind. He said that he wanted to propose to the daughter of Earl Collins. Since that was what Kaiden wanted, his father promised to send an official proposal without any hesitation. The guy wants to understand what's on his father's mind. He didn't even ask a single question. Kaiden bowed to him and was about to leave, but he stopped him. The father handed him the box and explained that what was inside would be useful to him when he proposed. The man looked at his son with love and care. Kaiden opened the box, eager to see what was inside. He took out a ring with a mana stone from there. It is a family heirloom, passed down to every mistress of the Blake house. So that woman wore it too, Kaiden thought. The woman who went to the demon world leaving it behind. That ring, and the Blake family. In the near future, the guy visited his contract partner. As always, he was warmly welcomed into this house. The guy hadn't met Magdalena yet. He decided to see her father first. He didn't beat around the bush and immediately said that he wanted to marry his daughter. Of course, the Blake family had already sent an official letter, but the guy decided to ask her hand in person. Ever since that meeting with Prince Aster, Dariana had been haunted by the thought that he was walking on thin ice. The Richmond house also sent a letter of offer, and the man heard about Jeffrey's visit. The Earl smiled and said that when he received the letter from the Blake house, he could hardly believe it. When Kaiden declared that he fell in love with Magdalena at first sight, the man smiled with even more enthusiasm. He never thought that his worthless daughter would be useful to him. Kaiden, meanwhile, thought that Earl Collins was just a chess piece on his contractor's board. Darian remembered the brooch and asked the guy if he was interested in a business proposal. After all, there is always a high demand for mana stones. The guy replied that he was thinking about starting his own business once he became the head of the family. But today, they should not discuss business matters. Kaiden can't wait to meet Lady Magdalene. He walked up to her and snatched the book she was reading from her hands, and at first she didn't even notice how he approached. The man asked her to give him some time, and the first thing he asked was how she slept that night. She replied that she had slept well thanks to him, but she felt somehow awkward talking about that night. He could tell from her face that she was uncomfortable remembering that night and that she was embarrassed. Even though she tries her best to pretend that she doesn't care and that there's nothing wrong with it, Kaiden can't be fooled. He repeated once again that she had simply drunk some wine, and at that moment Magdalene covered his mouth with her hand, not letting him finish. She was just afraid that he would say something indecent. But the lady believes that Kaiden would not do anything stupid and would not hurt her. He explained that he was simply admiring her while she slept soundly like an angel. It's strange that the demon compares his companion to an angel, but it's even cute. He still admires her angelic face. Her delicate features seem to be carved from marble, and her smile is like the dawn over snow-capped peaks. When she looks at Kaiden, her gaze is piercing and sincere, but she often avoids his gaze. Although when he once put a blade to her neck, she did not take her sad eyes off him. Kaiden got down on one knee and said he had something for her and handed her the ring. He kissed her hand, and she said that this moment was very unexpected for her. The man looked at her with love and said that this ring had been passed down from generation to generation. He wants her to become the mistress of the Blake house, and so he put a ring on her finger. Milady was surprised because she was his temporary wife under contract. That was her role. It's hard for her to accept something so valuable. Kaiden said that since other men wanted to get her, Kaiden decided to use this ring to signify that she was his woman. And how does he always manage to say what I want to hear? Thought Magdalena. The man promised that he would protect her and value her. When Kaiden left and Milady returned to the mansion, the maids began to admire her new decoration. This is a manna stone, which is rarer than diamonds. Lily was also happy for her daughter and was ready to send a letter of consent to the proposal to the Blake house. The woman thought that her daughter would remain her baby forever, but before she knew it, Magdalene had grown up. Milady remembered hearing that an invitation had also come from the Richmond house. Everyone was so busy that they forgot about this letter. The maid hurried after it. It was an invitation to a tea party organized by Katrina, an important event on which the future in high society depends. Since the marriage of Kaiden and Magdalene is decided, there is no need to go there, but Milady promised to examine the marquise. But the girl said that she did not want to go there, since she was the only one invited. Lily replied to her daughter that Catherine had reasons to be angry, especially since she had sent away all the suitors she had sent. Still, Magdalena thinks that this is an insult to her mother, and she is angry. The woman said that there was a plan to take revenge on Catherine, and she should just follow the plan. Lily von Leonard, the former flower of the empire, intrigued her daughter. Tea drinking began anyway, but Katrina was no longer waiting for Magdalena to arrive. She told the guests that she loved this little girl and really wanted to introduce her to everyone. The woman made a sad face, as if she missed her lady, and apologized to everyone for being touched in front of them. Some of the girls present began to console Catherine, suggesting that Magdalene simply had a bad character. After all, not showing up after the Marquise personally invited her would be extremely impolite. Katrina guesses that Magdalena will not come only because she did not invite her mother, but this is exactly what she wants. But unexpectedly for everyone, Magdalene Collins appeared at the tea party. The girl apologized for keeping everyone waiting. Katrina said that there was nothing wrong with her being late and asked them to sit down at the table. But another unexpected surprise awaited the woman after the lady, her mother, Lily von Leonard, entered and also greeted everyone. Everyone is in shock. Many years have passed since she visited high society, about 20 years. Lily asked Katrina why she wasn't on the guest list since they were best friends. To this, the woman replied that perhaps the invitation had simply gotten lost. But she whispered in Lily's ear to keep her mouth shut. But that didn't frighten her at all. The woman replied to Catherine that she should behave the way she behaved when she hosted imperial receptions. After that, she went and sat down at the table, leaving Catherine in a wild rage. The Marquise again failed to trample this strong woman, who is the former flower of the empire. Katrina suddenly thought that she didn't have to choose Lily as her target. Since she couldn't trample her friend, she decided to take care of her daughter. At this time, Magdalena eats dessert. She liked it very much. She considers this cake worthy of receiving the Queen of High Society. The girl expressed her admiration for Katrina, saying that the Richmond household had an exceptionally skilled cook. The woman replied to my lady that she appreciated the compliment very much, but if she ate it all, she would look like a huge lump of cream and would not be able to fit into her wedding dress. Magdalene did not rise to the provocation, but asked her how Geoffrey was doing after that day. Katrina immediately understood what my lady was talking about, but this caught her attention. The woman wondered if Milady had rejected his proposal and was talking about it so brazenly in front of everyone. My lady asked me to convey her apologies to Geoffrey. He seemed so upset that day. Katrina Richmond smiled and replied that her son should not be ignored. Most likely he had no feelings and was just in a bad mood. "Oh, what a pity," she said. "You could have been a real member of the Collins family," Lily said. Tears appeared on Katrina's face again. Lily simply means that any other way would be outrageous. Everyone knows these scandalous gossips, but no one dared to speak about them out loud, thought Catherine. This refers to the princess, her husband, and their relationship with the Marchioness of Richmond. Be that as it may, Lily decided to tell everyone the good news. The House of Blake sent a marriage proposal to her daughter Magdalene, and she decided to accept it. Everyone immediately focused their attention on Milady, and she became embarrassed. But she became even more embarrassed when people saw the ring Kaiden had given her. Lily said she owed her apologies to House Rodriguez, House Osborne, as well as House Knox and House Brown. The woman could not leave Katrina's faithful dogs unpunished. Geoffrey dropped in for tea and quietly asked Magdalene to come out and talk to him. He reminded her that she had promised to examine his father. They entered his room. Geoffrey introduced Magdalene to his father, even though he couldn't hear him. The man is in a coma for an as yet unknown reason. Milady examined him. His breathing was normal, his heartbeat was normal, and there was no reaction to stimuli. Jeffrey said he took his medication just before the appointment, so just over 2 hours had passed. Magdalena took his hand and felt the warmth concentrated at the tips of his fingers. And on his nails appeared dull crescents, as the lady suggested, and the whole thing was in the satanic mushroom. Before Magdalen's return to the past, His Majesty also fell into a coma. It seems they had been testing the effects of the mushroom on the Marquis of Richmond for years. Since the satanic mushroom is not very well known, they were probably not sure of its effects. Jeffrey stated that ever since a bastard became the imperial physician on the recommendation of his mother, he only sends medicine through an assistant. It turned out that one of the imperial doctors had become an accomplice. Milady wanted to immediately look at this medicine with which His Highness is being treated. The guy explained to the lady that there was a medicine cabinet by the window in the kitchen, and on the second shelf from the top was a brown bottle. But there is a cook in the kitchen. He is preparing something, and most likely he will not leave soon. They will get into trouble if they get caught, so they need to be extremely careful. Jeffrey decided to distract the cook. In the meantime, the lady could take the medicine. The guy said that he wanted to talk to him about something and took him away. Suddenly, the cook remembered that he urgently needed to go back for powdered sugar since he was baking gift cookies. At that very moment, Jeffrey burst into tears. Magdalena worked very quickly. She found a medicine that needed to be tested. Meanwhile, the cook began to calm the guy down with all his might. Hearing their conversation, Milady thought that there seemed to be a misunderstanding between them. This cook said that he had noticed his feelings for Magdalene a long time ago. He decided that the guy was crying because of this. As luck would have it, Milady caught her dress on the edge of the kitchen table, but she tore it and got out, so no one noticed anything. When this embarrassment was over, she laughed for a long time, remembering it. She had a hard time holding back her laughter, and it irritated Jeffrey. Now the girl will remember for several years how he cried and asked the cook not to take his eyes off him. But it's been a long time since the guy heard her laugh. He can watch her smile endlessly. Katrina came out to meet them and asked where they had been for so long. They waited for a long time, so they decided to take a walk. Magdalena replied that she simply got lost in the mansion. It was so huge. And the guy confirmed that he had accidentally stumbled upon her and decided to walk her so as not to get completely lost. He did it even despite her refusal, Katrina thought. Jeffrey was about to leave, but his mother stopped him. She asked if what Magdalene had told her was true, referring to his broken heart. He was angry that she talked to him about it in front of a crowd of people. Lily asked her friend to calm down because this concerns Jeffrey's personal life. The boy realized that he had answered his mother harshly, and so he apologized to her, bowed, and left. For some reason, Magdalena decided that it was her fault. She said that she had acted stupidly, but her mother did not think so. She began to console her daughter. The girls present at the tea party began to whisper. They felt sorry for the lady. They said that the marquise was too assertive. Magdalena felt she had won, because that was how you had to make a scene. So they and their mother took over the reception hosted by Katrina, the self-proclaimed queen of high society. When it was all over, Milady hurried to her teacher to check the medicine, which she had not obtained easily. Magdalena had prepared an antidote to the mushroom in advance, according to the recipe from the book The Tragic Princess. First, they must feed the mushrooms to the animal, the doctor said, but the lady ate the mushroom as she had done before. The girl put herself in danger again, just like last time. The effects of the mushroom began to manifest. All the ingredients in the antidote are safe, but who knows what might happen. Magdalena drank it and everything worked like magic. However, there could be side effects, so the doctor asked her to stay. Milady had planned to stay, especially since she wanted to check something. She asked if he had prepared the reagent she had asked for. He, of course, gave her a bottle of reagent. It only works on the synthetic mushroom, and when mixed, it turns red. The girl said that the Marquis of Richmond, who was in a coma, took this medicine. They tested the medicine, and it really did contain the satanic mushroom. They tested this mushroom on the Marquis before poisoning His Majesty. In that case, the culprit must be the imperial physician associated with the House of Richmond. It was most likely Viscount Harrington, and there was probably someone behind him. The Crown Prince is the most likely suspect. But if they act too quickly, they could destroy the evidence, so Magdalena asked them to rely on her. Soon, Magdalene and Kaiden arrived to His Majesty. The old man told Kaiden that he had grown into a fine young man, and the boy thanked him for the compliment. It's strange to see him so polite and formal. Maybe it's because he's usually relaxed with Milady, as if he's become a completely different person. His Majesty also turned to Magdalene, asking if everything was okay with her, and she replied that everything was fine. It seems to the old man as if only yesterday he met her in the palace, and now she is getting married. Looking at the pair of them, he sees that the empire has a bright future. In fact, Milady decided to ask His Majesty for one favor. The conversation was about wine for the guests at the wedding. She would like to offer them a special wine, but she still hasn't decided. Rumor has it that the Jenkins winery has a lot of good bottles, so the girl is thinking about contacting them. Of course, His Majesty promised to recommend several types to her. With that, they took their leave and headed back, the lady confident that His Highness would soon invite them again. After the official recognition of the relationship between Kaiden and Magdalena, the lady began to worry that she would rarely see her mother. She confessed to this man. Why not then move to the north for Her Highness? Kaiden thought. The girl immediately decided that if her mother remained in the Blake estate, even the prince would not be able to touch her. Of course, the girl replied that it was a good idea to take her mother with her. Their conversation was interrupted by Prince Aster, who had been watching them the whole time. He said that he had not heard from the two of them, so it turns out that my lady was pretending to be lonely. The man also added that he congratulates them with all his heart. He extended his hand to Kaiden, but the boy did not reciprocate. Magdalene asked him to greet the prince properly. That would be better. Only then did Kaiden greet Aster and apologize. The prince suggested that they have tea together tomorrow so that they could get to know each other better and get to know each other better. The man told him that he would be busy for the next week. Magdalena wonders how Kaiden has the courage to speak like that and refuse the prince. She asked Aster to be understanding, and the prince replied that he hoped to meet him when he was in a good mood. Soon after, Lord Kaiden and Lady Magdalene arrived at the Jenkins estate for wine. The Jenkins house is always happy to welcome dear guests. His Majesty was already waiting for them. It was an honor for them to meet him again. Kaiden said he would like to see his wine collection right away. As if he were giving Milady the opportunity to speak with His Majesty alone, he quickly left. The girl sat down at the table. The man offered her some tea. He really likes this tea. It helps him stay alert. Since she kept her promise, he promised to thank her. But my lady suddenly knocked over her mug of tea and deliberately burned herself. The girl apologized for being rude and asked him to look at his hand. His Majesty felt warmth in his fingertips and saw crescent moons. Then she told him about the satanic poison. She also explained that taking it ultimately leads to death. Likewise, the Marquis of Richmond, who is now unconscious, had his physician the Viscount mix poison into his medicine. Magdalena cannot tell His Majesty that she learned about this from the tragic princess, so she has only one way out to force him to drink the antidote. However, she said that he might not do this if he didn't trust her. The girl explained that if something happened to him and Prince Aster was crowned, he would take on those who could pose a threat to him. That's why it's important for him to stay alive in order to save her mother. Oh, what a brave child, the man replied, and promised to give up tea for a while to see if he felt better. The lady put a book on the table and asked him to read it. This is her mother's diary, which she kept when she was young. She wrote a lot about how much she loved him. There are these words written there. I understand why His Majesty is so angry, but I hope that later we will make peace. I miss him so much, and I wish him good health. Magdalene said that she and the Lord were getting married next week, and of course she wanted him to be there. There he will be able to see her mother, and this will be a reward for her. Just as unexpectedly for him, the lady called him grandfather, and tears rolled down his eyes. At last she spoke with His Majesty, and they returned home. The girl wanted to get the tragic princess, but was horrified when she opened the cabinet and did not find the book. Her mother came into her room and asked if this was what she was looking for. The lady saw the book in her hands. The girl asked in horror if she had read it and received an unexpected answer. The woman replied, "Why should I read something I already know?" Lily said that she knows everything because, like her daughter, she returned to the past. Milady froze in stupor because how was this possible? Having breathed her last, the woman made a wish to save her daughter, and at that moment when she closed her eyes, she heard a voice. The woman who called herself a demon greeted her and gave her a book. This book was a story. The main characters in it were Lily and Magdalene. It outlined everything that had happened up to that point. It also told how the Crown Prince, her husband and Catherine, conspired to cast her and Magdalene into hell. The demon woman said that she would fulfill her wish in exchange for one favor, and she agreed. When Lily returned to the past, the most noticeable change was that her daughter's choices were different from before. Watching her continue to choose other paths, the woman came to only one conclusion. Her daughter had also returned in time. So Lily told her daughter everything. Of course, Magdalena was touched and hugged her mother tightly. Milady said that as soon as she got married and went north, she should go too. "It's too dangerous to stay here," the girl added. She also announced that she would make her the next ruler. She swore that she would definitely place the imperial crown on her mother's head. Lily didn't argue with her daughter. Meanwhile, a scandal broke out between Darian and Catherine. She is not happy that he is avoiding her. Even the letters that she writes he ignores. The woman feels very bad. She is worried about why Darian has changed so much. The man shouted, "How dare your son propose to my daughter?" Catherine burst into tears. A chill ran through her body. She said that it was the prince who forced her to take this step. Darian admitted that he contacted her because he believed that the prince would become the heir, but nothing moved forward. Finally, he said that he didn't need her anymore. A few days later, Katrina came up with a new show. More precisely, the woman came up with some kind of play and thinks that it will bring pleasure to the guests. Kaiden, Jeffrey, and Magdalena are also there. Jeffrey still worries whether the medicine will help his father. Kaiden hugged Milady from behind. She was thinking about something. At that time, Katrina is crucifying herself in front of everyone. She claims that the play will not be simple, but about Lord Bellic. The woman hopes that the star of this play will enjoy the story. The main character of this story was Magdalene, played by Katrina. Milady wondered why this woman had become quiet lately, but it turned out she was preparing such a surprise. Of course, all the guests understood who Katrina was portraying. "I wonder how Kaiden will react," Magdalena thought. At the same second, he replied that he wanted to wring the neck of the idiot who was playing him. He can hardly contain himself, but plans to do it after the play. The girl believes that if Kaiden lets him go after this, then everything will fall into place by itself. The play ended quickly and everyone began to disperse, the Lord grumbling the whole way. He mutters that after such a show the lady will lose everything. Kaiden will leave her, and eventually everyone will reject her. Kaiden Blake suddenly appeared behind the man. As expected, Lord Bellic immediately paid for his insolence. The demon punished him. How dare he drag his fiancée into his ridiculous game? A man cannot escape from the hands of a demon. Kaiden has tested this more than once. At that time, the father scolds his daughter for something she did not do. He's angry that the play was about her, as if she made it all up. He is very afraid that dirty rumors will be spread about her. The girl got tired of listening to nonsense, and as soon as the man looked away, Magdalena immediately disappeared from sight. This was all Kaiden's doing. He was dying to see his beloved again, so he rushed over immediately. Right there, Lord Bellic appeared next to them. He began to ask for help, and to say that the demon was trying to kill him. He said that Kaiden didn't even touch him with a finger, but his body was floating in the air. Kaiden himself responded that he had indeed expressed his dissatisfaction with the play, but had not harmed anyone. "I know that you wanted to propose to my fiancé, but there is no need to slander me in vain," said the man. Witnesses around decided that Bellic had simply gone mad. Kaiden asked the man to leave so as not to escalate the situation. Afterwards, the guy turned to the Marquise Richmond. She knew exactly who the main character of this story was, so he demanded an explanation. The woman began to get nervous, and Lily approached her, supposedly to stand up for her friend. Of course, unless she intended to ruin her daughter's engagement. Katrina was confused, and in order not to get into trouble with these two, she simply went up to Magdalena and apologized. Milady replied that next time she would also prepare a play about her. The play will be about a stupid woman who pushed herself into hell by coveting something that does not belong to her. And on that note, Katrina's reception ended successfully. After that day, Magdalena and Kaiden continued their wedding preparations, each in their own place. Time passed, and today the wedding day arrived. Milady is the most beautiful bride that has ever been in the world. Everyone in the mansion literally showered her with compliments. It was only a contract marriage, thought my lady, but they would have to do something. She means the wedding night. Someone knocked on the door of the room. It turned out to be the girl's parents. "Why are you nervous?" her father asked her. She replied that, to be honest, a little. He asked her not to do anything stupid because today she would become the mistress of the Blake house. He asked to hug her. Magdalena cannot believe that for the first time in her life, she finds herself in her father's arms. It's time for the ceremony. Kaiden is as charming as ever. Milady approaches him and her blood runs cold. They both didn't notice how time flew by, and now the ceremony that marked their union had already begun. It seems like Kaiden is also all nervous, his face is gone. Now it was time to seal the vows with a kiss. The guy felt embarrassed for the first time. He was too nervous to touch her lips, even though he had seemed very brave before. And so, Kaiden Blake and Magdalena Collins were pronounced husband and wife. Night fell and Milady entered Kaiden's room. He was already looking forward to her. She admitted to her husband that she had never worn a dress like this before, so now she felt a little awkward. Kaiden picked her up in his arms and she felt nervous at his touch. Kaiden carefully laid her down on the bed, and she became even more excited. But her heart is not ready because this is her first time. He didn't really want to scare her, he just decided to look after her and cover her up. The man asked the lady not to pay attention to him, but to relax and eat. Morning came. Nothing happened between the couple during the night. Kaiden ended up falling asleep on the sofa. She went up to her husband and woke him up so that he could lie down on the bed because it was cold. Magdalena noticed that he was somehow different today. Maybe he was worried because nothing happened last night. He said he was okay and hugged his wife. The man simply realized that she would not like it if he did this, since they were married by contract. The lady asked him how long it had been since he had heard her thoughts. He thought how I could have gotten caught, how she guessed. But the girl explained that if he had read her thoughts, he would not have thought about whether to make love to her or not. She wasn't that modest, Kaiden thought, though her cheeks flushed. He again, without thinking, took her in his arms and laid her on the bed. Magdalena no longer wanted to resist. He kissed her for the first time, and she seemed to dissolve in him. They have plenty of time before the maids arrive. The next morning, as they sat down to breakfast, the father asked the newlyweds if they had slept well. They both replied that everything went perfectly. Magdalena said that her mother would soon move here, as soon as all the preparations were completed. Kaiden personally promised to escort her here. The boy noticed that his father had not even touched his food, and he became worried. Although he needs to eat well, the doctor told him so, but he does not listen to him. The man constantly quarrels with his butler Ihoven when he advises him to at least have something to eat. Kaiden ordered to report everything without exception to Magdalene, the mistress of the Blake house. He is worried that his father eats poorly and has become more irritable and also often complains of headaches. But the doctor didn't find any problems with him, which is strange. Magdalena would like to meet with that doctor, but he went on vacation for a few days. She then asked to see his medical records, as she had studied medicine in the capital. The butler promised to provide her with the recordings immediately. When he left, Kaiden approached Milady with an indecent question. He immediately needed to strengthen the connection with her, but she refused him. She has been observing the Duke for several days now, and his condition seems stable. And yet in the mornings he noticeably feels unwell. Only in the evening does he become calmer and softer. In the end, Magdalena came straight to his office. He was busy with something there at that hour. Looking inside, she heard something that shocked her, but she did not dare to enter. So the next morning, she immediately hurried to him. She thought for a long time how to ask him, and decided to do it directly. She said this, "You and your demon queen wife made it so that my mother and I would go back to the past." She apologized for accidentally overhearing their conversation the previous night. She saw him contacting the demon queen through the communication crystal. From what the girl heard, she, her mother, and Duke Blake went back to the past. The man said that in this situation, Magdalene was the best choice for Kaiden and the Blake family. He asked the girl to keep this a secret from his son for a while. She promised to keep the secret on one condition: from now on, he had to sleep more at night. An irregular sleep schedule will negatively affect his health. Now Magdalene is also a member of the Blake family and will take on some of the affairs. And to prepare for taking over the house in the future, Kaiden should share some responsibilities with him. The man replied, "Okay, we'll do as you say." The girl smiled. She was glad that he listened to her. When Magdalena was already sitting in her room sorting through documents, Kaiden came in to her. She needs to sort through these documents before the morning. She said that this was her chance to win the Duke's favor. But she didn't need to win any favor, her husband thought. Magdalena was so tired that she quickly fell asleep on his shoulder, but these documents needed to be looked at before sunrise, the man decided. Milady woke up only in the morning. She screamed, "Why didn't anyone wake her up?" But she was sleeping so soundly that the mere thought of waking her seemed blasphemous. Kaiden looked at her calmly and confidently, and then he declared that he had finished everything and gave her a brief summary of all the documents. He grinned and said that now she had to charm him. Then Magdalena kissed him for his concern. She took the folder with the contents and said goodbye to her beloved husband. They later met in the dining room. Today his father's face looks much better than yesterday, the boy thought, looking at him. The man said he read the summary and was particularly impressed by the drought relief measures in the Eisen area. Using soldiers who previously fought off monsters using magic that easily absorbed the energy of monsters was a good suggestion. It was Kaiden's suggestion. The father is impressed with his son and so is his wife. Kaiden's father told the lady that he had a request, but it was not a conversation that could be discussed here. What does he want to talk about? It must be something important, Magdalena thought. He said that due to a number of circumstances he and his wife live separately. His wife must protect the demonic world, while he is the North. That's why they communicate through the crystal when they miss each other. But lately his wife has been too busy, and when he said he missed her, she got very angry. When he was young, all the demons trembled at the sight of him. He asked Magdalene if she knew how to calm his wife's anger, since she had dealt with his son. "There is nothing better than expressing your feelings directly," she replied. But the man is not sure that this will be enough to please his wife. The girl advised him to express his feelings in writing, to just write whatever comes to mind. That way it turns out to be the most sincere. He thanked her. Now everything should be fine. When the lady was at home, the maid informed her that the Duke had come to see her. Just at this moment, the happy Duke literally burst into the room. He boasted that his wife had finally written him a letter back, which contained many words about love. The Demon Queen promised that she would soon visit her beloved husband. The man is so excited that he probably won't sleep a wink. It's all thanks to Magdalena. He is infinitely grateful to her for her advice. So he said that the stone mine belonged to the Blake family. The lady could take it for herself. The man promised to transfer the ownership rights to her. At that moment, Kaiden came in and asked his father what he was doing there. The man replied that he had come to visit his daughter-in-law. The guy turned to his wife and asked her to spend time with him today. "Sorry, but she's already agreed to spend time with me," the Duke said. The girl confirmed that his father was right and left with him. A week has passed since Kaiden disappeared. Magdalena does not know where he is. The Duke is also at a loss as to where his son might be. Just got married and already makes his wife worry. The man sees that his daughter-in-law is nervous and promises that Ihovan will sort it out. Milady thought about him all night and why he did this to her. He is the first one who excited her, and to whom she is so partial. And now he just disappeared without saying a word. It's very unfair. The girl woke up early in the morning because her mother woke her up. But why did she end up here?